Because you know I'm all about that bass, about that bass, and no trouble. I'm all about that bass, and no trouble. I'm all about that bass, and no trouble. I'm all about that bass, about that bass.
Yeah, it's pretty clear I ain't no size two, but I can shake it like I'm supposed to do. 'Cause I got that boom boom that all the boys are chasing, all the right junk in all the right places. I see those magazines working on Photoshop. You know that stuff ain't real. Come on and make it stop. If you got beauty, then raise them up, 'cause every inch of you is perfect from the bottom to the top. My mama, she told me don't worry about your size. She said boys like a little more booty to hold at night. You know I won't be no stick figure, silicone Barbie doll. So if that's what you're into, then go ahead and move along. Because you know I'm all about the bass, no treble. I'm all about the bass, no treble. I'm all about the bass, no treble. I'm all about the bass, I'm bringing booty back. Go ahead and tell those skinny ladies that. Nah, I'm just playing. I know you think you're fat, but I'm here to tell you every inch of you is perfect from the bottom to the top. Hey, my mama, she told me don't worry about the size. She said boys like a little more booty to hold at night. And I won't be no stick figure, silicone Barbie doll. So if that's what you're into, then go ahead and move along. Because you know I'm You see my mama, she told me don't worry about your size. Because boys like a little more booty to hold at night. You know I won't be no stick figure, silicone Barbie doll. So if that's what you're into, then go ahead and move along. I'm all about the bass, no treble. I'm all about the bass, no treble. I'm all about the bass, no treble. I'm all about the bass, I'm all about the bass, no treble. I'm all about the bass, no treble. I'm all about the bass, no treble. I'm all about the bass.
Hello, my darlings. Hello. I hope you enjoyed that little intro, because tonight's show is all about that bass. And the bass we're talking about is our good friend, Mr. Uygur. Cenk Uygur. Hold on, let me see if I can find the goddamn site. Here we are. Let me take you by the hand. And yes, indeed. Sorry, I'm on a very different system, if you will, which is going to make things a little bit awkward to shuffle around. There you go. We're all about that bass. The man has a lot of bass. I mean, as a big fella myself, I can tell you that this guy has a lot of bass. and we are here to celebrate the epic fail that is Cenk Uygur's run for election. Now, you may or may not know who this individual is. You may be thinking, who is this chubby man, fat, bald man, that you're telling me you are pointing at yet another fat man in your life? It's almost like Stewie. The fat man is running for Congress. Um, so, um, so yeah, if you don't know about Mr. Cenk Uygur, he is a Turkish man. Turkish? Does he say Turkish? Does he say Toshak? Yes, he's Turkish. He's not Peckish, he's Turkish. Now, he is a host of a show called The Young Turks. Most of us refer to it as the Young Turds. Uh, Now, in this photo, I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure. Is he squeezing out a fart or is he taking a leak? I can't tell. At this point, I'm not sure. This is a confusing image for me. He looks like he's about to give out a very, very fine, like a fart, but it's like one of those that is controlled. It's not just, but it's more of a. I don't know. I can't do it, but you know what I mean. Those squeaky ones. Either he's about to fart, or he's just finished like taking a very long and well needed piss. I don't know, but that's what I get from those images. They're not flattering, not at all. But then again, I wasn't looking for flattering images of Mr. Cenk. Oh, here's another one. Oh, isn't that a look of fucking $1 million face? Oh, that one is not flattering. That is not a flattering image whatsoever. But anyway, the Young Turks. The Young Turks. Let us discuss the Turkest of the youngest of the Turk. The Turkey. Um, Now, Cenk Uygur runs a what is known as a progressive internet news outlet. Now, I say news, I really mean they're just glorified Googlers. They mostly Google things and then read them back to you. Shit that you could have done yourself, but there you go, they did it for you. And that's really it, to be honest with you. That's pretty much what they do. They regurgitate other people's news. They are news regurgitators, is what they are, really. They just simply spew out or give they sort of rehash and then add essentially their bullshit to what is really just news that they should be just telling us about, rather than just telling us about the news. No, they tell you how you should see and think about the news. I mean, you can't get any more partisan. They are just partisan hacks. That's what they really are. Just pure partisan hacks, spewing out their propaganda, right, left wing, communist esque, socialist esque propaganda. That's really what the Young Turks are. I used to think they were actually very edgy and they were telling the truth and they were speaking truth to power, and then I realized, no, this is just liberal, progressive bullshit. Um, and so Mr. Cenk Uygur, the Turkish man, decided to go for something crazy, run for Congress, and so he did. So he did, and run he did. Although running is kind of a loose term in Cenk's case, because running isn't really in his forte. It's not part of his daily schedule, shall we say. This man partakes in a lot of things. Running is not one of them. Cream cakes, on the other hand, yes, there is plenty of that involved. Again, I'm a fat man, shaming a fat man. I don't think there's any shame in it. He is a rotund individual. And when I say I'm all about that bass, this man is all about that bass, because he has the bass. Anyway, so what do we want to what do we have to say about this? To be honest, I don't really have a lot to say about it. The Young Turks internet show, shitty progressive leftist cucks, um, and socialist as fuck. and then he thought he was, I mean, the best person. I'll give you. I'll talk about the person who really covers these guys, and has in fact made a career out of him, out of the Young Turks himself. But just simply put it, he ran for a district of California, this particular corner of California, which some person resigned or left or whatever, and it was left vacant. So then he decided to make a bid for it. Of course, he went up against this lady, and she absolutely creamed him, like a dildo in a porn film. Okay, she creamed him up. He looked like that scene at the end of Ghostbusters when the Marshmallow Man exploded and they were all covered in white. That's what Cenk looked like at the end of that election night. Just covered in some goo because of the creaming that this lady gave him. Um, and yeah, and that's why I put in the messages 5% winner, 95% loser. Excuse me. Oh shit! There's a sneeze. Corona all the way. I have it, people. I have the Corona. At least I have a couple of bottles somewhere. Anyway, but yeah, she absolutely whipped his ass. He literally only won a 5% of the votes. That's what he won. Cenk won 5%. 5% of the votes. But do you know how much he spent for that 5% of the votes? He spent just over $1 million to get that 5%. That is unbelievable. With $1 million, he could have bought more votes. Then he could have literally paid people to go and vote for him, like 50 quid just to vote for Cenk Uygur. $50 to vote for him, and he would have probably got more votes if he had gave each individual $50 than to spend $1 million and get 5% of the votes. And yeah, and that's what he did. And he wasn't even like a close fourth. He was like a distant fourth. I think this lady, whatever her name is, Christie or something or other, she was the front runner for the Democratic, or she was the Democratic Party's candidate. And of course, this is California, so Democrats do pretty well. Although it appears this is a conservative part of California in which two conservative sort of what do you call it, nominees or people who were running actually got ahead of even her. She came some sort of a third, I think, at the end of it, and the Republicans, the two Republican candidates, actually came ahead. But they're going into like a second round. There's another round after this, but Cenk obviously not going to be there because he didn't even fucking get close to the top three, so he's gone. But $1 million. He dropped $1 million on this. I heard the other day that Bloomberg has dropped $500 million so far on his campaign to become president. And people were saying there's 367 million people in the United States. Bloomberg could have paid each person in the United States $1 million and still had more money left over. And I would say he would pretty much guarantee every person's vote by giving them $1 million each. And he's already spent $500 million on his campaign. That is insane. To spend $500 million on your fucking campaign to become the president. And there's 365 million people in the country, and some of them live in abject poverty. Some of them have 2-3 jobs. You could have literally lifted every person in that country out of poverty, and still had money to spare, and yet they blow it on TV ads. That's fucking unbelievable. But anyway, I digress. Yes, this is about Cenk, this particular portion of the evening, and Cenk is pathetic and unliked and unpleasant. He thinks he's better than he actually is. And yes, Anna, I'm talking to you. You are not better than me. Fuck you. but he actually thinks he's popular because he thinks his 3 million YouTube fans are actually can actually translate to actual votes. He doesn't realize YouTube is a global business. Those subscribers you guys have, the 3 million subs, first of all, nobody accounts for hate watchers because I would say there's like at least a million that just are subscribed to the Young Turks and they hate their guts. I am one of them. I am subscribed to the Young Turks and I despise them and I downvote every video, sometimes without even watching it. But I still am a subscriber. So he thinks that the 3 million subscribers are somehow a reflection of his popularity. Doesn't realize a bunch of people don't even the shitload of people just hate him. They despise him. They find him to be incredibly annoying and tubby and short and Turkish. But anyway, uh, and this is the other irony. Here's a man who, first of all, I can't even find the clip. I'm gonna try and find it, but I couldn't find it ahead of time. He admitted, or he says in joke, but I think there was semi-serious joke, where he actually advocated for bestiality as long as the animal also enjoys it. So if you're pleasuring a animal, a horse, dog, whatever, and the dog and the horse come to a conclusion, shall we say, then he doesn't consider that to be bestiality. He just like, okay, the horse liked it. That was one of his things which came out during during his campaign trail when they were talking about, and then of course he denies the Armenian genocide, even though he actually has an Armenian in the name of Anna Kasparian working for what is called the Young Turks, which is effectively the Hitler Youth of the Turks. That's what the Young Turks were. They were the ones who caused, or were at the forefront of the Armenian genocide, and the company's called the fucking Young Turks, and an Armenian is working for them. It's like a Jew working for the Nazi youth party. It's fucking insane. But there you go. There you go. This is a background on the Young Turks and what they are. And he was denying the Armenian genocide for decades, up until only, I think, the last decade that he started to kind of come round and admit it and say, yeah, it was a genocide, etc., etc. But until then, he was pulling the Turkish friggin' he was towing the Turkish line all the way up there. So anyway, that's it really. That's my entire synopsis of the Young Turks. Now, the other part of this show I wanted to go into was to do with a douchebag, a giant, bald-headed douchebag. Again, as a fat, bald man, I take the liberty to call this man a cue ball. But this cue ball, which is known as Atheism is Unstoppable, you may or may not know him, otherwise known as Devin Tracy, aka Devin Tracy, aka Atheism is Unstoppable, aka the Roo, or something, Atheist Roo, or Kangaroo, whatever. He uses the kangaroo as his little symbol. He has made his entire career from the Young Turks. I mean, literally, his entire career is the Young Turks, as you can see. Just like it's his entire YouTube career is due to the Young Turks. If it wasn't for the Young Turks, I don't think this man would be able to make any videos. I don't think he would have any purpose in life. I don't think he would have any hair. I still don't think he would have had hair if the Young Turks didn't exist. It doesn't matter. Either way, this man's entire life revolves around firmly shoving himself deep and hard into the Young Turks' anus. I mean, with all his might. Cenk and Anna. I bet he goes to sleep jacking off over Cenk and Anna, because without them, he would not actually have any purpose in life. There would be nothing else to live for. Cenk and Anna are what sustains this man. So atheism's unstoppable. I'll be honest. I find this guy to be like so fucking idiotic. First of all, he keeps saying he is the spokesman for the white people, and yet he's a Hillary supporting cuck of a leftist prick. I mean, he actually cucked for Hillary Clinton so hard. He was like just blowing fucking. He was simultaneously flicking Hillary's bean while sucking on Bill's dick in 2016, desperate to try and get Hillary Clinton fucking elected. And then he goes ahead and starts talking shit about the Young Turks and how terrible they are. And there's what the fuck, man? You're a leftist fucking cuck yourself. What are you fucking complaining about? The progressives. You're the one who shills for fucking Hillary. You're the one who's gonna shill for fucking Biden or whoever else is the Democratic nominee. So you're still a fucking leftist prick. You still don't recognize that you still would vote. You think Hillary would not be social justicey? You think Hillary wouldn't fucking try to narrow the wage gap and enact a whole bunch of fucking regressive laws? Of course you would have. But you still was gonna go ahead and vote. You still went ahead and voted for that bitch, that absolute lying bitch, because you don't like Trump, because you're just a fucking naive idiot who doesn't realize where you are, where your country's at. So you're still a dick. I'm sorry, Devin. You're still a giant douche. I mean, this man is such a fucking dick. That he actively fucking hates his own subscribers. He bans and hides and he does all sorts of fucked up things to his own subscribers, those who technically are supposed to like him. He's a giant douchebag too. And you wonder why his channel is stagnant and never really grows. Because you're a douche, Devin. You're a giant fucking douche. And you cuck for Hillary or whoever the Democratic fucking nominees are, and you still want to fucking harp on about the progressives being too crazy or the social justice bunch being too nuts. No, you're one of them. You're one of them, Devin. You vote for them. You vote with them. You fucking swim in their soup. So don't bullshit the rest of us about how it's the progressives are just Black Lives Matter. It's so bad. These social justice people are so... No, you're just another shade of fucking Cenk Uygur, okay? A whiter shade. But you're not a million miles apart. You still cuck for the fucking Democrats. And you don't recognize that you needed a conservative in order to fucking pull back the Overton window. You still would fucking harp on about carrying on with fucking another cucked fucking Democrat. And I know what it is. It's because you suck Sam Harris's cock all the time. And Sam Harris desperately has to make sure that, and he's a leftist fucking cuck as well. And, it is what it is. So unfortunately, yeah, I'm sorry. You both are fucking cucks. You should actually expand. And you should actually start looking into the Republicans, the right wing of center, because your country is going to the shits. Okay, these leftists are gonna look at what's happening to Europe. Look at the hordes that are running towards the gates of Europe as we speak from Turkey. Yeah, eventually they will come across the Atlantic. Eventually they will make it to your shores too. And then what are you gonna do, Devin? You're gonna cuck for them too? I don't know. I just find this guy to be so hypocritical. He's constantly talking about, they're shitting on white people, and then you go and vote for a fucking politician who will shit on white people even more, who will shit on your fucking nation even more. Open the floodgates of fucking immigrants to let them just fucking run riot, run roughshod all over your country. Europe is already fucked. So I'm sorry, you're not gonna really, you don't fool anyone, Devin. You're not fooling anyone. We all see you for the cuckold that you are, and you are one. You are a giant fucking Hillary, the Democratic cuckold, and nobody buys your shit anymore. people have moved on, really. I mean, this atheist thing, that's kind of got old anyway. You're not on any forefront of any movements whatsoever. You still shill for the fucking Democrats. You're just a has been. You're just too long in the tooth, and you're not keeping up with the movements. What's actually going on? You go ahead and bury your head in your fucking After Effects and keep making fucking graphics with fucking kangaroos, and keep shilling your fucking t-shirts. But you're not really breaking any grounds here. That's why your channel has been stagnant. How long did it take you to make it to fucking 100K, and you haven't even fucking barely scraped over that line? You're still barely over 100K because you're just desperately. You got nothing to offer. You're just boring now. And then you call Sargon boring. At least Sargon had the balls to run for something. At least he went for a fucking try to become an elected official. At least he actually tried something. You just fucking run around different parts of the world, and make mediocre videos shilling for fucking Democrats. Nobody gives a shit about that. And occasionally you talk about an odd white victim here and there, because whatever. I don't know. This guy's fucking wasting my time. Okay, moving on from Devin the Cue Ball Tracy. The next thing in my lineup. I think I just ran a bit too long. Ooh, we have Welshie. Hello, Welshie. You in the back?
Good evening.
Sorry, dude.
How you doing?
Can't hear
You hear me?
What the fuck? I can't hear him. Hold on. I can hear you. Hold on. Just keep talking. Okay, talk.
All right. Let's have a look.
I can hear you. It's my headsets. My headsets switch themselves off if I'm not actually looking at, if I'm not, if it's not actively something playing. What's up, dude?
You're talking about that fat swat, Cenk fucking Uygur or whatever his fucking stupid name is.
Oh, but the thing is, this one is sweet. This one is a sweet moment where he got fucking crushed, like destroyed.
Did you see the Young Turk reporting on it? The Young Turks.
Oh yeah.
He's at his campaign headquarters and he's just trying to keep a straight. He's trying to keep a positive face.
I know. He goes. Yeah. We got a whole bunch of rowdy people here, and everybody's like silent in the background. And he goes, "Come on, guys."
It's still early days. It's still early days. It's still early days. Everyone fucked off home. We have people there.
For fuck's sake. It's because he wasn't even like a close third. He was like he won 5%. He spent $1 million to get 5% of the votes.
Well, he done better than he done better than Mini Bloomberg, didn't he?
Mini Bloomberg, who's
oh,
you mean you're talking about
Michael Bloomberg?
Yeah, that guy has spent $500 million.
I think it's more than that, and he got like like a 1/3% in some caucus. It was just like, what the fuck?
But the thing is, someone said there's only 365 or 67 or something million.
Yeah, it's liberal
in the United States. Like, he could literally give every person $1 million. He would have gone.
No, Banksy. That's fake news. Just do the maths, mate.
What do you mean?
It's trillions. You have to have trillions to give everyone the money.
Oh yeah, he's got trillions anyway. He's a billionaire.
But they said you could give everyone in America £1 million. It doesn't work like that. If you give everyone £1 million,
what do you mean? Like that?
£350 million doesn't 500 million pounds doesn't cover it.
Why? Wait a minute. There's 367 million people, and you have $500 million. You can divide 500 million by 365.
So give 100 people 100 million. If give 100 people $1 million, that's 100 million, correct?
That's true.
Oh, that's my case.
That is no, 100 people, $1 million.
If I give 100 people £1 million, dollars, pounds, potatoes, whatever, right? That's 100 million. So just do the math.
Are you serious? Are you saying that 500 million? Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, 500 million. If he, well, yeah, divided by 360. No, it just doesn't. Wait a minute.
Just
365
do
million
it simply.
people.
Just do it simply. Just do
Let
100
me let
people
me
at
see. Let me see.
£1 million.
So that
Just do
doesn't.
100 people at £1 million is £100 million.
Okay.
Correct? Okay.
So you're
So if you
saying that
give
500 million
500,
will give 500 people 500 million?
yes, yes, £1 million each. See what the chat says. Let's see. What am I doing this
But
for?
that is. But then how is it that 365? Okay, so you got 500 million. Uh, 1, 2, 3.
Just write it on paper. Just write it on paper, man.
Yeah, divided by 365 million. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, you're right. You're right. It would actually be
Trillions.
0.0136 dollars.
Trillions.
No, not
Trillions and
trillion.
trillions.
No, actually per person it would be $0.0136. Yeah, no, it wouldn't.
There we go.
It wouldn't actually be
It
a
would
million
work out.
dollars per person.
You
That's
gotta get.
nonsense.
You gotta break it. You
Yeah,
gotta
that is
break it
total
down.
nonsense. That was bullshit maths. Whoever said that must now die.
Yes, it's yeah. She.
That was
I
bullshit maths.
mean, I didn't pick up on it. It was picked up on and went around Twitter, like you know what I mean.
Yeah,
So
that
it
was
was
pure bullshit. That was You're right. That was pure bullshit. I should have done a
right.
basic fucking calculation.
Yeah, just 100 people at £1 million.
That
You're
wouldn't work.
20% there now.
Yeah, no, it's
Okay,
actually fuck
right.
all. It's actually fuck all to the individual
Yeah,
365 million people, or 300. I think I did 360 something, 360 whatever. So
yeah.
yeah, no, it would work out basically fuck all for per person. So no, he couldn't buy enough votes. If he actually gave $100 and you times
Well,
that,
someone's just put down it's $1.20 to each person in America
yeah.
in the
Well,
chat.
actually, I don't know even if it's $1.21. Is it? Uh, let's put it this way: if you gave $100 to 365 million people, it would be holy shit. Yeah, it would be $365 trillion. So that's just $100. You'd have to spend $365 trillion just to give $100. So yeah, no, he would be fucked. He would. There's no way he can
Yeah,
afford it.
can we go back to Cenk? I've put something in the side chat for you. I've got that original video. It's only 1.5 minutes long,
Ah, okay,
but
okay. Hold on.
just the look of Anna Kasparian's face. Oh, mate, let me tell you, it's really hard to find this. So if you put in YouTube, right, junk yogurt, or spell it correctly,
Yeah,
right, spell it correctly, and then put down bestiality. I've never had this before.
yeah.
YouTube just says "fuck you."
I know.
There's
You can't
nothing.
find it. I've just been trying to find it myself. It won't come up.
Yeah, well, I've had to like fucking go through hoops and circles to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
the classic one. I was trying to show someone the Tommy Robinson Leeds court case the other
Aye.
day, and I
Mm.
said, "Oh, I find it really hard to find." And that's all I put in was Leeds live stream, and there it was, top pick.
Leeds
As
live
soon as I put
stream
Tommy
of Tommy
Robinson in,
Robinson.
no, just Leeds live stream. So if I put Tommy Robinson in, you just get Guardian, The
Yeah.
Times,
But you just
BBC.
put Leeds live
Just
stream, and then you get the
just put
top.
in Leeds live stream, and it comes up top trumps, which is hilarious because if you
Fucking.
put in like Leeds Crown Court live stream or Tommy Robinson or anything with Tommy
Yeah, it
Robinson in,
wouldn't
you're
come.
fucked.
It wouldn't come. The thing is, if I put Tommy Robinson in this video, in this title of this video, the video gets buried. The video.
Mm.
This is the thing they've done is they bury the smaller content creators with the name Tommy Robinson, for example, in it, and they promote the large corporations to the first top of the first
Oh,
page.
mate, yeah. I mean, I'll give you the other classic example. Mark Dice, the American political commentator's top channel. You should watch it. 5 minute videos every day.
I'm subscribed to him. I'm subscribed to him.
Now
Good man.
he had a video about Hillary Clinton's defeat, election defeat,
Oh yeah.
and he puts the title in completely correct with capitals, the words that they say, and he comes up choice 48 or something, or 54 or something, and it's absolutely crazy because he has had more views on that channel. It wasn't hidden originally. It was like getting the views. That's why it was hidden. And it's so far down. It's like 7 pages down or something. It's just like
No,
outrageous.
they're systematically doing it on purpose, especially now. They'll be doing it until the end of the 2020 election. Then things will,
Okay.
the algorithm will shift again, because they just don't want Trump to be reelected. So they're burying anything that's positive towards Trump,
Yeah.
or positive towards right wing, or negative towards left wing. So anything negative towards progressives and left wing will get buried. Anything positive towards Trump will
Well,
get buried. Anything positive towards any right wing ideology will get buried, and all the
I
left wing
can,
stuff.
can, can I just can I just check this before I forget? OBS. You need to have a chat with Simon Rev because he struggled on Sunday with his OBS, and you know all about OBS, don't
Oh
you?
yeah. Let him
Sorry to
tell
throw
him.
it out there, but
No, it's
he's
good, man.
getting buffering issues. He's getting buffering issues where
Is
it
he
just
using
like
OBS?
freezes.
Is he using Streamlabs, or is he using OBS
I,
Project?
d- I think he's using Streamlabs.
Yeah, no, he
I think
shouldn't
he is.
be. If you don't have a crazy top end PC like the one I've got, and the one
No.
Streets.
He's using Discord. He's using Discord.
No. But he's using OBS. But he's using Discord running through OBS.
Yeah.
He can't run Discord
Yes.
the way he's been running it without an OBS. But he's running
Yeah.
OBS Streamlabs rather than OBS Project,
No.
because
No. It's
OBS.
I just realised it's Discord because you've got to go on his Discord channel to get to the live stream, and it's the locked room.
Well, yeah, I know that,
There's
but
no,
what I'm saying is that he
oh,
can still do that. The problem, okay, he's got multiple problems really. Number one is that he's probably using the wrong version of the wrong type of OBS. I mean, it's not. I mean, there's actually more than just
okay.
the two
Banksy,
OBSs.
you're talking to the wrong man. I'm going to get him to get
Yeah,
him to if
yeah, but also
get in contact with each
it's
other.
what it really comes down to. Believe it or not, is to do with amount of RAM and processing power your computer has, because OBS takes a chunk of processing power, and Discord takes a chunk of processing power. And if your computer isn't really kick-ass top end, like the one Street uses, the one Real uses, and the one I use. Those ones, the one I use when I'm on camera though, not this one. The one I'm on right now is a low end machine in comparison, and that's why I'm not running the green screen. I'm not running a whole bunch of stuff, because if I run a lot of graphics, this computer will die. But the other machine I have is a really kick-ass machine, and I run the whole thing. I run Streamlabs, I can run Discord, I can run fucking everything simultaneously, and that machine just churns it out because it's just crazy fast. So that's it. What it really comes down to is your quality of your PC. If your PC is
Okay.
low end, you have to use these things sparingly.
Yeah, so that's enough tech talk for me, Banks. Honestly,
I know. Okay,
but
let me play this
to
video
go
with
on to
Cenk
the
with the bestiality.
oh yeah, wicked.
Let me play that. You're gonna unfortunately have to watch
And
the
we'll,
stream, because I'm gonna play it through this to the main stream. I'm not sharing my
so I'm gonna
screen.
go on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Okay.
watch it through YouTube. I'm gonna play it that way because it's just easier.
Have decided what that boing boing chick was doing. She was doing a jaywalking of bestiality. Like, yeah, it might technically be a crime, but let's not waste the court's time on jaywalk.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, fair enough.
Jaywalking bestiality. So it's like a lower level bestiality than I don't know, fucking a chicken in the eye. I'm not entirely sure what is high level bestiality, but this man has degrees of gradients of levels of bestiality. So it isn't just bestiality. It is multiple layers of bestialities. It's almost like the gender spectrum, except with bestiality.
But here comes the controversial part, the part I shouldn't say.
Start it again, Banks.
I believe that I am going. If I were the ruler, the benevolent dictator of the world.
Sorry, can you hear it?
It's just a delay, that's all.
Yeah. There's like probably a 5 or 10 second delay. So hang in there, dude. Hang in there.
I would legalize bestiality where you are giving. You are pleasuring the animal.
Yes. So he would legalize bestiality as long as the goat likes it.
You see what I'm saying? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now why? Why did that happen?
Why? Why did it happen? He doesn't know why. He doesn't know why. People are like, what are you saying, you crazy fat man? the look on Anna's face, like, how am I supposed to react to this? Should I just call him an idiot? Or just pretend because my job depends on it?
It's the dumbest thing I've said.
It really is the dumbest thing you said. But
No, I'll tell you why. Because so there's was the case that we covered where there was like a guy or a girl or something that was pleasuring a horse, and the horse came to a conclusion, right? So who got harmed?
you know that people who are, okay, look, not to be a downer about what you're saying, because what you're saying sounds kind of funny, but a lot of people who are being raped can actually have an orgasm. So like if a guy is being raped, he can have an orgasm. Like you can't say, if you come, that means you wanted it. That's not the right way to go.
But number one, you're being an unbelievable downer.
I am, but that's the truth.
Number two, they're not both humans. Number three, I mean, if you really asked the horse, did you mind? The answer's got to be, no. You see what
She's like, fucking, this guy's an idiot. What have I done with my life and my career? This is the moment where Anna realized she flushed her career down the toilet. She could have been a real, genuine reporter, respected and loved by all, but no.
I know, that face she pulls.
Sorry?
The face she pulls, honestly, you just literally start talking and she can't pull the face she wants to pull because she's looking straight at him. Listen enough.
It's like one of those, what's it called? One of those Morgan Freeman moments. It was at this moment when Anna realized she fucked up. by joining this fucking corporation, the Young Turks. Holy shit. Holy fucking God.
I'm saying? No.
This is such an awkward conversation.
It is.
Yes.
I'm going to leave it be. Okay?
It's an awkward conversation. Is it really, Anna? Is it awkward that your boss is talking about pleasuring horses? Do you honestly think this is an awkward moment? Is this a HR moment, Anna? Maybe HR should know about this. I don't know.
So I just moving forward, right? And I've literally put in Sleepy Joe Biden, because I know we can talk about Joe Biden, etc.
Oh yeah.
And I cannot, and it's all CBS, Telegraph, Fox. Now, a headline of Sleepy Joe, okay, they put it in their headline, but I can't find any independence at all. It's mainly Trump calling him Sleepy Joe. There's no Mark.
I know. I think Joe Biden is genuinely suffering from senility. I think he's gone into either Alzheimer's or senile, just old age senile. Are you with me, Welshie? Hello?
Yeah, it's going to be a laugh, mate. Sorry, mate. That's okay. When I'm searching on YouTube,
I see.
Streamlabs disappears.
Oh, I see. Are you on your phone?
Yeah.
Oh, that's why then. Don't worry. In that case, you do you.
Yeah.
But Joe Biden is genuinely. I mean, these dudes are all in their 70s, for fuck's sake.
Right. I just want to get his latest gaffes. His latest gaffes is where he put his hand around his sister and called her his wife.
Oh, he mixed it up because they moved places. And his wife
that's
and
what he says.
Swapped or whatever, and he got all fucking.
That's what he says.
Yeah, he got all.
But then he starts talking about Super Thursday. That's a new one for everyone. It's called Super Tuesday. right? What was the other one? He did another one as well. And it's just like, what are you doing, mate? Oh, that's
Because
right. He's running for Senate. He's not running for
yeah,
presidency.
he's
He's
running.
running for Senate.
He doesn't know. The dude doesn't know anymore where the fuck he is. I'm telling the man is
Yeah.
old. I mean, for fuck's sake, let me find out how old is. Let's Google how old is fucking
70,
Joe Biden.
he's 77
For
or
fuck's sake, he's
76.
77, and he's
Because
running.
there's a year. Right. I think Trump, Biden, and Bernie,
Bernie.
they're 78, 76, and 77. I don't know which one. I don't think
Holy
Trump's the highest,
shit!
but he's don't think he's the lowest. Yeah.
This is insane. The thing is that the job that they're running for is one of the most demanding and grueling jobs out there. I mean, most like Obama. Look at Obama when he first got elected in 2008, and then when he finished in like 2000, what was it, 16. He was fucking
Yeah.
old. He looked like he'd been
Well,
drained by some life-sucking witch.
does anyone seriously believe that if Biden was voted in as president, do they seriously believe that he'd be making any decisions at all? Honestly,
The thing is,
seriously,
he was.
he's literally a puppet. You're literally there as a puppet. That's what he's there for. He's not make any decisions. I mean,
Yeah,
the Democrats are quite happy to throw the Democratic Party down the pan, a bit like momentum with Labour.
Labour.
Right?
Yeah.
They are quite happy to just self-destruct as long as they don't vote Bernie in. The
Yeah.
establishment in the Democrat Party are petrified of Bernie getting elected as the
As
candidate.
yeah, yeah. Because the thing is, it doesn't
So
matter.
they're
Biden will
happy.
lose.
They're totally happy to have a. Well, in fact, they couldn't be any happier than having a dum dum as president, Biden, because they could then control what they want to do.
Well, yeah, exactly. Sorry. Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is with Biden, I guess yeah, he would be kind of Hillary Clinton stroke Obama esque, establishment sort of sort of an establishment representative or president. But the thing is, he won't win. Biden won't win. Bernie might come slightly closer, but he will still lose. They both will lose. I'm telling you, Trump is
Well,
going to get another few
against
years
Trump,
anyway.
against Trump,
Yeah, yeah, Trump.
against Trump.
Yeah,
Okay,
because Trump is a incumbent president. The incumbent president
yeah,
usually wins the elections, especially
yeah,
since Trump has produced, or at least appears to have produced, a really strong American economy now. There's more people
yeah.
at work than ever before. People are earning more money. They're getting tax rebates. They're allowed, they're getting, money in their own pockets. People are actually doing better. Although I don't think these are because of Trump. I think these are because of the cycle in which Obama was actually trying to clear up all the shit. And usually, after a Democratic president, a Republican president gets like a ton of surplus in cash and all sorts of things, because like after Clinton, George W. Bush like had it sweet, and then this fucker managed to drive the country to a giant 2008 crash right before he fucking left office, and then let fucking Obama clean it all up. So what Trump is enjoying is actually what Obama cleaned up, and it's just paying dividends now. Except uh, Trump is claiming all the credit for it. Whilst what will happen most likely is, first of all, he'll get re-elected, and then there'll be some sort of crash in like 2024, in which
Okay, well,
the next.
it's due a crash now. It's overdue a crash now. But basically, what you just said then, though, right, Banksy, is that when Obama took over, he took over right after the crash,
Yeah,
right? Okay, so anything's going to be better from that point on. Okay,
exactly.
anything can be better. So when people say, "Oh, Trump's rewarding what Obama did," bollocks. That's the case.
Well, no, because Obama.
When Obama took office, they were at the bottom of the recession. So anything from that point is a fucking up.
Oh yeah, but what I
What
mean
what
is
what?
the work that Obama did. It takes a period of time for all that effort to start to pay dividends, for you to be able to harvest the field, if
Well,
you
well,
will. And so it took about 8 years, or 8 or 9 years, for that to show itself. It becomes, the bubble
and in
worked
that time,
really
in
well.
that time, America dropped more bombs than they ever did before, and in that time, there was more race trouble in America than there has been in modern history. So
Well,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I mean, all of
it
those
all
things
went
aside, I'm talking
well,
about the
didn't it? It all
economics
went
behind
well
it.
for him. Bollocks.
Well, yeah.
I remember Obama saying, right, that Trump says he's going to bring back millions of manufacturing jobs. How is he going to do that? I've tried for 8 years. What's he got? A magic wand. He's
Mm.
brought back 3 million jobs. All right.
Well,
So,
yeah. I mean, the thing is,
and he hasn't done that. He
Trump.
hasn't done it on Obama's policies. He hasn't done that on Obama's policies. He's done that. He's done that
Yeah,
on
but
promoting business to invest
it's true.
to get bigger. That's why.
No, no, it's
And
true.
Obama wasn't
It's
doing
true.
that.
It's true that he has made some moves as
Trickle
well,
down.
which has helped middle class income, or lower middle class people to get into work and actually make a decent wage. So yes, Trump has enacted some policies which have assisted, and also his sort of what's it called? Him wanting to stop becoming much more strict at the borders to not let so many refugees in. Those things have played well, and but the economy was on the up anyway. It was as you said, it's a secular it's a secular system in which it has a crash, and then the bubble gets created, and then they start to it's think you'll have good times for a while, and then the
Yeah.
bubble will burst. So Obama was just in the wrong time of the bubble being burst. It had just burst when he took place, and then it took a while for it to build up, and now Trump is taking credit for something that would have happened anyway. Any president would have had that economy, but the other things like immigration,
Well, any
like
president could have done what Obama done because when Obama
well,
started,
yeah,
he was at the bottom. He was at the bottom.
well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm saying these things are not necessarily in the hands of the president. There's a guy an investor who got on the BBC back in 2008, and he literally said, like the BBC interviewer asked him, so do you think the governments and the efforts that they're doing are going to be able to control this recession or whatever? He straight up said, the governments don't run the world. Goldman Sachs runs the world. The government's efforts are not going to make any difference to these things. It's these banks and these investment banks that call the shots in these areas. They're the ones who are going to boom or bust it. The governments don't do
Yeah.
anything that affects these things. So no, the governments can't do anything to actually make any of this better or worse, because they don't run these institutions. They don't control
I,
these
I,
things. The
I've
markets
just
are not
brought up.
controlled by governments. The markets are controlled by the market.
Yeah, I know. I've just brought up the Joe Biden's massive gaffes, and it was 3 days ago on the Joe Rogan show, and they're doing like a talk through on it.
Oh dear
It's gonna
God!
be all the recent ones.
All right, all right, hold on, hold on. I've got the Ralph reaction himself, and I'm
What we
seeing
Banksy.
hello,
Mate, the only
hello.
thing I just wanted to jump in and
Uh,
say, how
Can
much
you hear
RAM
me?
do you have?
Hi
How
guys.
much RAM?
How much
Yeah, I
RAM?
can hear you, man. Yeah,
Hey guys,
on your big fat machine.
on my big fat machine, I have 40 gig. On
Oh,
on
40
this
gig.
on
Okay.
this one, I only got 24. But
Okay,
Okay.
I would like to
it's
say
not just
something
the
about the
RAM.
economy. I would like to say, add my few pennies and cents or whatever to the economy. It have started better under Trump, maybe because he also knew that it doesn't make any sense to start and run for president when Obama has his terms, because the economy will suck. You know, he's a businessman and he's
I'm sorry,
like the
what's
lion
that going to do with RAM?
on a safari.
What's, what's that going to do with the amount of RAM and what type of flash RAM it is? Dude, you lost me there.
No. We were
Kidding.
talking about. I think you know where we are.
I'm just talking with him. I know.
But
Oh, me,
but
I'm
I mean,
coward.
actually, the person that knows about all of these things is actually Ralph. Ralph, do you honestly think that Obama or Trump can actually have any tangible effects on the markets?
On the markets,
Hassan,
very little.
Okay,
Very
Hassan in
little.
the chat. Hassan in the chat. Stop saying wanker because it
Ralph,
won't go through,
may
mate.
I ask you something?
We're not blocking you. Just
Oh, is
don't.
that Hassan?
Uh,
Oh no, that's different Hassan. I thought that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
the
Just
Hassan
just
from
separate the
Canada.
wanker. Put separate it. It'll go through then.
Yilzam.
okay.
Hassan Yilzam. It sounds
Um,
Turkish. Go ahead, Ralph.
yeah, no, they have very marginal effect unless they do something crazy. But if you look at the way the markets calculate risk, they don't have of the top, let's say, off the top of my head, the top 2 to 3,000 factors don't even include assassination of a president.
There you go.
So the market's not even risking the president being assassinated. It's something the
Okay,
market can't price.
uh,
Yeah.
Ralph, I have a question. How about
They tell you
lowering?
they do.
How about lowering the taxes? Trump have lowered the
Oh, they
taxes
could
for
look.
everybody.
Yeah, the market's pricing all the tax rate tranches. The market's pricing lowering taxes, raising taxes, and they price all this into the risk calculations that run real time and overnight. And yeah, lowering taxes. But remember, the president can't do that like overnight, right? He can't come out tomorrow and go, "Hey, taxes are 1%, guys," without the markets going like, "Whoa, that's a really crazy risk factor," and the consequences of high risk is high change, right? That's why markets don't like high risk. Risk like the coronavirus is high risk, right? So why the
Okay.
markets are selling off,
This is
right?
actually
But the risk will eventually calculate out. Remember, it's computers calculating risk. There's nothing you can tell me as a political strategy that won't have a risk factor, right? I mean, including
what-
assassinating the president.
But what I will say is, this is a good example. Which one of these actually has a bigger impact on the markets? The coronavirus or Donald Trump?
Corona.
Coronavirus.
Exactly.
Because because it's uncertain. No, not because Trump has no power.
Well,
It's
of course,
because
the
the markets
coronavirus,
are priced it's uncertainty. Once the corona market, the virus, we know we've got a pre-cure coming, right? By the summer we'd have a cure, right? So until then, the market doesn't know. Am I going to lose 100 million people of GDP units or 20 million? There's a big difference between 20 million deaths and 100 million, and the market's going to price all of it. Market can't do anything but keep pricing the risk, right? And President Trump can't solve corona. I mean, so it's just uncertainty, isn't it?
Well,
Then there's greed, which is very different, because then all the statistical hedge funds will come over and see the uncertainty, and they make it worse by betting against the sentiment.
Well,
Because
I
just
tell you
make
what, we got
short-term gains.
it's fucking
we
crazy.
got
To be
we
honest.
got mainstream media at the moment. We got mainstream media saying at the moment that Trump is calling coronavirus a hoax. He never has called coronavirus a hoax, right? But the Sky, BBC, and all the other scumbag fucking treacherous channels will keep on saying this. A bit like when they said Trump said there was good people at Charlottesville, right? That's what they'll do. They'll keep on drowning it in and drowning it in until it becomes the truth. And it's not the case
My
at all.
favorite moment,
He's just-
Welshie mate, my favorite moment in Speaker's Corner was I've been really busy and I couldn't come last Sunday, was when our resident famous long-term communist came out to talk about the coronavirus using his Apple Mac laptop. and then he got echoed by everyone in the park. And he lost his
Yes.
shit. Haiku lost his shit in the park. The communists with the Apple Mac from China telling us because the market's
that
instinct
mud?
is,
Was that
I don't know.
mud or dust? He calls
Yeah, you
himself
just check it out.
dust or mud?
No,
Mud.
no, no. Haiku Ku, the actual smart
Haiku,
communist,
yeah.
lost it. Yeah, he lost his shit with that and everything else. And I'll tell you why. And the reason is this: it doesn't matter about the logic and the reason and the data. Right now, everyone's looking at the Chinese people with just irrational suspicion, rightfully so, right? You look at a Chinese person, you go, "Whoa, they're closer to patient zero than the other guy." So right, so he's going. But I've read my Chinese news sources. We're going. Communist guy goes to China with an Apple Mac. Fucking back off. Anyway, man, I'm just being silly.
No, but
I mean, the mainstream media. You saw that? It was quite funny. I've never seen Haiku lose his cool, man.
Yeah, I've
never seen him lose his cool.
The only time he got a bit flustered was when it was coming up to the December elections, and he wanted desperately for Labour
that
to
was
win.
the
He
last desperate.
shilling for
Yeah,
Labour a lot. He even brought Jeremy
but that
Corbyn's
was
brother to friggin' Hyde Park
his youngest
to shill.
sister over his other brother.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
Jeremy
youngest sister,
Corbyn's
brother. Whatever that thing was.
Was it the
I thought
Speaker's Corner?
Is Piers a
Yeah.
male? That guy. Okay,
I
couldn't
think so,
tell.
yeah.
Anyway, yeah. But no, yeah, but I've never seen him lose it like that, man, which is quite
Yeah.
funny because it tells you in different times, right?
But
But anyway, sorry.
I guess even
But yeah,
if,
markets, mate. Markets don't price the risk.
yeah,
And
this
what's
the,
this about Cenk standing? Did he stand for the? I wasn't following this stuff, mate. Did Cenk
oh
stand in for
Oh, mate, you
Congress or
haven't seen the
Senate?
video, have
he
you?
was standing for member of Congress at a district
Okay.
in California where he thought he was
Hmm.
really gonna win. He literally only
Yeah.
got what 5% of the votes after spending $1 million in campaign funds.
Yeah, well, yeah.
It's a bit
He's
like when
just
Twitter were horrified that Corbyn didn't go through. They just didn't understand. They just don't understand why. And it's just like, yes,
yeah,
you're a little microcosm bubble.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Or in the
No
same
one
way,
else
I
gives
guess.
a fuck.
Well, the same way when Hillary Clinton said the reason Trump won was because all these white women kept voting for him. You're like, yeah. I mean, like,
Yeah, what about all the black
why
women
you
that voted for him?
voting
What about all the
for
black women
How
that
about the
voted for him?
Hispanics? How about the
I
Hispanic
know.
women that voted for Trump?
I hope you guys.
It's
I
so
hope you guys
funny though
think of the
because
right way.
I think it was pointed. I think it was pointed out once by a pundit. They were saying white women should be ashamed of themselves, and then the other pundit said, actually, he got like unprecedented numbers in Hispanic females, black females,
Yep.
and they were like, yeah, well, they all should be ashamed of themselves. Yeah, don't put it into a color thing. Just, you know what I mean?
Well,
Well,
the left
colors
plays the identity.
notwithstanding, I think black women and Hispanic women voters in the United States pale in comparison to the number of white women voters, if I may use that expression. They're just a lot more white women. I mean, what do you expect? It just seems like a duh. But obviously, the next young kids will.
Well, this is the thing, though,
Anyway,
Ralph. You guys played like a video or something some time back. I forgot whose stream about the fact that women are much more susceptible towards social justice and social justice type causes than actually men are, and this is what makes it quite shocking that white women voted for Trump. But then again, there is a lot of white Christian women in the United States in
Uh,
that abortion thing.
I think
But
the
it
Banksy,
biggest thing.
look,
let's
Trump
face
didn't
it,
get into
8 years
power
of
because of
Obama.
white women.
One at a time. One at a time, everyone.
Banksy, Trump didn't get into power because of white women. Okay, let's just get that right. He didn't get into power for white women. He got into power because black women voted for him and Hispanic people voted for him. Not just women either.
Well,
I mean,
possibly.
just.
But I mean,
Well, no, it's true.
it definitely
The
has
stats
to.
don't add up, mate.
Yeah,
The stats don't add up.
yeah. But how about you, MC? Sorry, you were going to say something.
Well, 8 years of Obama have probably convinced everybody, also the white, the black, the Latino, or whatever, not only woman, that what do they have to lose? What do they have to actually lose? 8 years of Democrats, Obama's fuck ups, to be honest, because the government doesn't do much for the economy. But let's face it, Obama's policies, raising taxes, all those programs, betrayals. To be honest, also one of my things that I will never forgive Obama: selling the internet from the USA and sharing it with the rest of the world. It should never happen. Because under American law, the internet is the most safest place for free speech in the entire on the entire planet, but he decided otherwise. Not to mention, of course, that he wanted to make America just like another European country. I don't think it should ever happen. It should even be an idea. Fuck being another European country. It should be America.
In fact,
Yeah, and you're talking to the wrong guy here, man. I think we should segregate the internet. I want multiple
Fuck
internets.
sharing. Fuck sharing.
Violate.
I don't want internet to be under the law of any country in Europe. To be honest,
No, I don't think you understood me. I want protocol level, I say underneath TCP packet level segregation by routing.
Well,
I don't want to see large parts of the world, and I don't want them to see us.
Yeah, but technically, Ralph,
Internet segregation.
No, but technically,
now.
Ralph, you could do that. You could create an entire section or entire internet based not on HTTP. You could just create a new standard.
What do you mean? What do you mean we can? One of my favorite neo-reactionary person I know for 20 years has already finished the job right now in Silicon Valley. The blocker Mobug has created the first next distributed protocol. Do you know what it is? Do you know what CVIT is? Oh wow! The next version of the internet is going to be actually decentralized itself at packet level. You can run the entire thing like a distributed OS. It can simulate TCP/IP, and you can't get to it. It's coming very soon.
Wow.
Okay.
We're just going to have this layer that's sitting there that it's impossible to even detect
But
the
you can-
VPN layer, what the network configuration is. It can be fundamentally unreadable by the security services, anyone.
Holy
Do you
shit.
think we're going to let what happened? Yeah, and Moberg, who is, I don't know if you know much, who Moses Mencius Moberg is, the Neo Actually blogger?
No,
He's
no.
one of the founding birth people of the Neo Actually movement, my man. One of the smartest guys I've ever met.
Yeah, but the
He's
thing
already
is,
finished the job.
how you gonna?
It's already launched and venture capital funded.
But what I mean is, do you still have to access it through the HTTP protocol? Or
It will
is it a
interoperate.
completely
No, it's a
different
naked
protocol?
it's completely naked protocol, and it can actually simulate HTTP. Imagine running like an OS simulator.
So it can
So
actually
it
can simulate.
it can go in and out of
HTTP.
it can go in and out of HTTP and be completely segregatable
Oh,
and,
that's good.
encrypted and has a full Turing complete OS machine.
Fucking hell.
Oh man, mate,
that is
we're not
interesting.
talking about it.
When is
If this
it?
thing goes south,
When are they launching
if
these
I'll
sort of
send you
things?
some links. Ping me later. You can. I'll show you
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
all about.
Catch me on Discord. This is
Okay,
unfortunately
yeah.
techie talk gets a little bit boring for most other people.
Yeah, there's not enough anal sex. How does TikTok help promote anal sex in our culture?
Yeah. How does
We need more.
how does
the church-
HTTP promote fight the culture war?
It's the opposite of the question,
How
mate.
does-
How
how
does
does
talking about
this,
geez promote my sex life?
Yeah. How
I'm
does
trying
layer
to
one
take it as a liberal.
layer one of the OTI model?
This is my liberal jihad. This is my liberal takia, mate.
Yes.
I'm pretending I'm a liberal here.
Yeah.
Just
So,
kidding.
yeah,
How are you,
unfortunately,
Banksy? Good guy.
I find the tech talk that most people just like glaze over. So I quickly move on. Cenk remind me of you. 72 virgin goats. Kiss my
I
ass.
do like this
72.
72 version.
And
Go,
also-
Tiny.
But actually, here's the thing. Now, this is a slight tangent from old Cenk Uygur here, but I've been mostly using your arguments, Ralph, on FDR Discord. I think I've kind of shocked a few people, and some of them, like, their whole
Good man.
worldview got like shattered. But the thing is, I use it there because I want them to push back so that I can then use it against you. And the
course.
idea is, this is the thing that they were talking about. I was proposing this concept, which is, I think, something along the lines of what you guys propose, which is your race dictates your culture. So culture is downstream from your race. Only ethnicity. So only the
Yeah.
English ethnicity could create this society, and only the
For the most part.
Japanese ethnicity could result
Yeah.
in that society.
Yeah,
And
and
my-
back to hate to interrupt, but the key thing is ethnicity, not race, because it falls at race. So, for example, English and French people could create different cultures, different languages. Ethnicity, the key component that when you create this cultural magic, my values, the key component that shows up genetically, of course, is language. Right? So,
So
just
are you
between
saying
English
that
and
no
French.
one else
Okay.
could adopt
Well,
the ethnicity of the
then I have
British?
another thing for those people. Another word, geography. Why we don't talk about the place where that
Correct.
race actually came to life
Absolutely.
and
Well,
evolved?
That's
Yeah.
how you generate. That's how you generate divergence.
But,
Yeah.
but this is
So go on anyway, Banksy.
but
Carry
this
on
is
with
the
the argument.
argument I made was. Now I postulated this, and by the way, can you honestly say that there is? Can you prove that this is true? This is the argument
What
that
is
they
that
push
about?
back.
Well, let's.
As in, is there actual studies to say that your ethnicity is downstream from your society, and that if your ethnicity changes, your society cannot sustain that same
Yeah,
thing?
well, proof is a strong word, but here's a very simple way to look at it this way. There's only two intellectual arguments. One is, let's take the two extremes of the arguments. One is everything is a social construct, and independent of my DNA, people with random DNA will produce the same cultures. The other argument is cultures can only be produced by this DNA, and no other person can produce this. Both are wrong. Both are arguments by absurdity of the extremes. What we do know is that the ethnicity and the culture are linked. So I could get it perfectly after 3 or 4 generations, an integrated black person who's culturally acting in every way British, but he's still going to have certain variations of genetics, like his fondness for certain foods and his body types, etc. But his culture might be dominant. Or the other extreme that says, hey, if they can't break it or fuck it or eat it, they fuck it. Right? It doesn't matter what you do at training. No. So it seems like there's a difference, there's delta between how much is genetic and how much is cultural.
But can
And
you?
now the problem is the left want to argue that it's not genetic at all.
Well,
And that's where they
but
fail.
this is the argument I gave to them. If I were to take the entire population of Japan, wholesale, lift them up as they are, wipe their minds clean of every historical aspect of their culture, and pop
Right.
them in
Translate them, yeah.
Australia, pop them in the continent of
Yep.
Australia, would they
Within
still?
2 to 3 generations, they will, 2 to 3
Would they still
generations, they'll start being all Japanese.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
Would they
they would.
still develop a Japanese
Yeah.
society with Japanese cultural behaviors, even though they have no concept of their past? They are in Australia, so environmentally they're vastly different. Culturally, they're a blank slate. Would they still
Yeah.
develop a Japanese
Actually,
society?
can I share my screen, Banks? Can I share my screen,
Yeah,
Banks?
sure.
Okay, here's a particular gene. Let me show you a couple of genes. We'll just show you the story in a single go, man. So let me know when my screen comes through. Of course, it's very rare. So if I took, for example, this one, this is the S allele of the 5-HTBLR gene. Depending what the percentage you have of this gene, it seems to map perfectly to individual behavior versus collectivism. So to be crystal clear, every one person with this gene isn't deterministic. But if I plot all the people and all the genes, look at the countries of the world plotted by just the 5-HTBLR S allele. What do you see? At the bottom are the most individualistic nations, the Western nations. Yeah. At the top are the most collective nations, the Asian nations. Yeah. If you put these people, you pick the Danes or the Italians, Hungary, and you put them in a different area, their genetic predisposition to form individual liberal societies is wired in. Now, does that mean one Italian person won't become group? No, it doesn't. But you're not telling me there's no race-based, genetic-based. There's just one gene right there. It doesn't matter how much I splice the gene. I can see that percent S allele. I can see the variation in the S allele. And guess what? I look at the country maps of the world. What do they look like?
Yeah, I did.
And your anecdotal data says you go to a Chinese restaurant in Chinatown, you won't see very many individual 2 people having dinner together. You see 5, 6, 8 of them together. Go to any Western restaurant, you see dinner for one, sir. Right? Well, now, could I take a Chinese person? Yeah, of course I could. But the genetic data is you're trying to deny race realism, and the science is.
Well, this is what they do most of the time. I mean, I was talking to this other chap later on because these were all new people, and most of them.
This is famous Discord server I've never been on called FBR, FT something.
Yeah,
Invite me next time.
FBR is James's server. James is very particular.
Oh, the FT James doesn't like me. He doesn't love me. Okay,
he's not gonna have you on.
He's not gonna let me.
But the thing is, what I do is I take your arguments. Effectively, I am the vessel.
Boy.
Yeah, the vessel that the mule. I'm the drug mule. Yeah. I'm the right wing mule. Where I take these arguments that you made, and I actually mentioned this thing that you just showed us in regards to the buckets, and people will sort themselves out in those various groupings. And I was, putting these to them. Unfortunately, a lot of them, because they are so encased and so absorbed into their leftist culture and society. Like, I talked to this one guy, and he sounded 100%, English through and through. Until I started having more of a deeper conversation, he said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Well, I'm Iranian, and doesn't matter if I live 1,000 years in Britain, I will always be Iranian." But then I said to him, "Okay, so you're English." He goes, "Well, I'm Jewish." I said, "Well, in that case, you're not English." "No, but I'm English." I said, "No, you're not English. You're Jewish. You are Jewish." You just happen to live in England. No, I'm English Jewish. I said to him, "I'm sorry, dude. You're not English. You're Jewish." Now, you have a homeland. It's called Israel, and you should be happy with that, and you should be proud of that. It's perfectly fine to be Jewish.
God bless that. Yeah.
But you're not English. And he couldn't believe it. He literally left the room that we were talking to. He went to another room.
He called you Nazi?
No, he didn't. Well, I mean, most of them were calling me racist here and there. But because it's hard for them to quantify, because I'm also Iranian. So they're like, you're a self-hating, racist.
Internalized racism is the normal left way. Internalized misogyny, internalized racism. But you're like,
what I noticed when I went on to his, when I saw his text, because he was still writing in the same text chat as the one I could see, and he was talking to other people, going, he thinks I'm not English. Apparently I can't be English. I'm like, dude, you've just now started to recognize where you are, where your group, Ralph, is actually discussing, is that he actually thought he was an Englishman, and that was, I think, one of the first times in
But
his
he didn't
life.
really. He believed it, but he kind of believed itself in his head, right? So the other thing,
Yeah,
Banksy, is this, right? If you ask him, because they'll pretend it's not science. Ask them this. Ask them if you run up the biological stack from physics up to chemistry. I run to biochemistry, then I run to molecular biology and DNA,
Just
and
another.
eventually get my body and my mind. At what point does the magic start?
You're
Where the brain
crazy.
just stops?
Dummy,
And
and you're rough.
Shut.
it's okay. I actually wasn't this. I didn't have it on the main screen because
And we have to ban this
I knew he
motherfucker
was
from
gonna
here.
porn bomb. I knew he was gonna porn bomb, so I didn't have it on the
Uh,
main screen.
Okay, have you
Now,
kicked him out? Have
now
you
we're
banned him
back.
from your
Yeah,
channel?
yeah. I've knocked him. I've knocked him off. It's okay. He's not getting back on.
But just to close
You
up,
know, I'm
Banksy,
not a
here's a
moderator, so I
question.
cannot be
Thanks for the
frankly.
try, Pat.
But another point, Banksy, is you've asked them this simple question, and this is where they balk. At
Yeah.
what point in the physics, moving up to the cell, moving up to DNA and then to the body, at what point in the biology and chemistry does the magic happen where science stops and more values appear? Can you tell me which part of science the magic happens? Because the argument is somehow my DNA is to my body. At some magic point, like Rene Descartes' mind-body Cartesian dualism, right? They thought the mind was the magic. Tell me where this magic happens in the chemistry. When does my biology just stop and more values appear in the brain? Because it must be it's almost like they're accepting some magical soul,
Well,
right?
this is the thing.
Most of them are probably atheists.
This is what I was saying to them about the problem is, like, I said to them, let's discuss about like animals and canines and dogs, because we know that different dogs have different temperaments, different behavioral characteristics, and we literally breed dogs based on those things. I will never let a pit bull become a seeing eye dog. It's just not. It's not going to work out for that particular type of
That's not
dog.
the temperament.
Whilst Labradors will be perfectly fine for that particular job. So we can't.
Shepherds
Sorry.
both shepherds and Labradors can do it, but German shepherds, Alsatians, are too wasted for doing blind eye dogs because they're much smarter. They have the second highest
Yeah.
IQ of dogs. Right?
Exactly. So what
But
I'm
there's only
saying
two
is,
dogs that have the temperament. Yeah. So.
but what I'm saying is, we distinctly, we very quickly can ascertain what type of dogs are good at certain types of jobs. The husky, the sheepdog, the St. Bernard, etc., etc. So, and they were like, no, but you can't compare dogs to humans because human beings have these amazing brains that are just so beyond like dogs. So you can't compare dogs to the way that you can with humans. I'm like, look, I'm not saying that you can compare, do a direct, comparison of dogs and humans, but what I'm saying is that within the breeds.
Cannot compare.
No, but what I mean
I'm
is
going to say that.
yeah, but you can definitely see that their physiology affects their behavior, affects their cognitive ability.
Absolutely.
So
Well, it's not just, yeah, it does. It's not the cognitive bit so much as if you look at the way you model a species correctly, and if you do it for the highest order species, us, we'll measure it. You can break all your behaviors into 5 dimensions, a big 5 model by statistics plus IQ. Lower order species, primates, have a different version of the same model, which is a behavioral model of temperament plus the cognitive abilities.
Exactly.
All other species show this model. Why should humans, hence back to my question, where does the magic happen in the chemistry and the biology? Can you
Exactly.
point to the layer of knowledge where suddenly more values appear?
Well,
I don't know where does the more values appear?
yeah, because
Well
from
said.
because that's the thing. From their perspective, you can take any human being from any part of the world, raise them in a different culture, and they will be exactly the same as the natives of that culture that you raised them in. They would have no difference whatsoever, and I can't accept that. I just don't think that's the case. I think that you can. It doesn't matter if, Ralph, you lived in China for the next 100,000 years. There will never come a time where you will magically be Chinese. It just won't happen. This is what I was telling them. I was like, how many generations, how many thousands of years do you think you have to live in China for you as an Englishman, Jacob Rees-Mogg, to suddenly become Chinese? You just
Never. And I'll tell you what, it's
just not gonna
the
happen.
political thing that screws them is if you just look at the branch of philosophy called axiology, which studies aesthetics and ethics. you'll see that these different cultures also produce different aesthetics. Forget ethics for a second. Even if you take cultures third or fourth or fifth generation, look at the Indians in the Caribbean, look at the Iranians in the round of the world of the diaspora. Generation after generation, the Iranians have traveled for a long time, right? In the diaspora, they've been Iranians in many generations in foreign countries.
Yes.
They still like rose-scented things, right? This is wired into your aesthetics. They still like certain music. They like nine-point modal chord structures. They'll find the Beatles really boring and dull. There's no richness in the Beatles,
No, I mean,
right? For them.
Oh, by the way,
No, but
I
you
want
mean-
to add something.
No, but
Good
you-
that you have said something about music. Good that you have said something about it. To be honest, we Poles as a collective, as a population, frankly, to me, for example, the English music, English rock, for example, the Beatles or something, to me, it's too mild. It's too laid back. To be honest, I prefer something like energetic, like most of my population. We have everybody that have encountered us in Britain, and you know that there are almost 1 million Poles to this day in Britain. You know that we have quite a temper. For example, we are not that stoic as you. We will never be, probably even maybe. Few.
Well, this is the broader point that different cultures, and because of genetic variance, produce. And I'm taking something that's not contentious, not political or structural. I'm just looking at the branch of aesthetics, right? Just the fact that certain cultures, like let's take Indian music, classical music, one of the most sophisticated forms of music. Indian classical musicians mock Western jazz as being baby shit, right? That's how sophisticated Indian jazz is, and they can't listen to like English sub pop. They don't think it's music. I mean, they can listen to it, but they go, "What's the ting 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 ting?" They're like, "Oh, Mozart! I can do Mozart in between Mozart. I can go to such fucking riffs in between Mozart because." But if you play that to a Western audience, they'll think that's really noisy and messy. Their aesthetics are different. So even the aesthetics has evolved genetically separately, and this is a beautiful thing. True diversity, right? This idea that I can just take him and suddenly go, "Hey, you're going to like this," and you're going to go against the grain, against your biology, is just a lie. It's a political lie, and that's why the left and the liberals won't speak to us, because they know we have things. But I love the fact, Banksy, you're going back and forwards and bringing new arguments.
I am, but because I'm trying to steel man my
Gotta-
own or my own positions or my own ideas.
Fortify the fence.
Exactly, because I mean, ultimately, I'm the only one in this range that comes to you guys, to streets, and I listen to you guys. But I also go to those discords, or I go to those environments, and I get challenged or pushed back against these arguments that you guys use to try to. But also, I want to actually use some of their arguments to push back against your ideas as well, because I know that, for example, the stuff we talk about, the stuff that you're talking about, that you're postulating, there is no clinical trials or evidence really. There these circumstantial evidence that you have, but we don't actually have a solid test case for any of this.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, as in these cultures, for example, to say that the experiment that I proposed, like take all of Japanese people, dump them in Australia.
But not that experiment. No, not that experiment, actually. The closest one would be, because you're asking for a large data set with a large number of metrics. That's the only reason you can't do it, and the experiment's hard to conduct. But the closest you have, for example, is the Anglosphere. The English people were deported by different reasons, exported and dropped on this island of Australia and America. What did they form? They didn't form Japanese, African, or Chinese cultures. They immediately formed their own cultures.
Yeah, but that's because they already had the
go to
baggage.
Australia and the United States.
But they had the baggage of England with them.
No, but how does that baggage transmit itself genetically? You can't transmit baggage genetically. All you can do is transmit your genes, right?
Yeah,
in
but
one generation of mating.
They took those ideas, they took all that history with them, and they took those judicial systems, because the Australians didn't just go to Australia. The British Empire went to Australia. It established itself based on the British system in Australia and the Americans.
Okay, so let me
and
give you the
Canadians.
counterexamples then. So then the counterexample to that would be, look at the colonization in retreat. Look at the difference, for example, how the Indians eroded the railways compared to the Africans. The Africans broke the railway system, the English gave them in no time. And the Indians kind of like made it work differently and adapted it. if you think of phenotypical retreat, because you're talking about cultural experiments at massive scale here, right? So it doesn't actually dispute anything. It's just talking about a hypothetical. But even the hypothetical over, let's say, 1 century of colonial withdrawal, go take a train in Africa, bloody hell. Most of them just tell you to get off. And they say, oh, the train stopped. This carriage is broken. The Indian ones get there. They don't get there as efficiently. They've kind of improved the century-left Africans, but because of domestic troubles, they're not being able to invest in them. But the Japanese clone them immediately. And the Japanese have the best or second best train system in the world compared to the Germans. Are you telling me that there's no cultural pattern? Even though it can't be a scientific experiment, I'm not allowed to scientifically cut trans. I'm not allowed to, Well, I mean, I wish I was. I'm not allowed to take chips off the board and move them around.
This is the thing. This is the thing. Like they said to me, give me one example.
Right.
Oh, sorry, go on, MC.
I want to say one thing, but those cultures can be also impacted and put to a direction that in even a few centuries would be unrecognizable. For example, if Britain would be, for example, hit by an asteroid, I mean, the impact of it would have a significant. I mean, the impact would significantly change a little bit the British culture for sure. Or
yeah, I think an asteroid would impact any culture for sure. That would be a shock to the culture, and you can imagine other shocks like ecological shocks of war.
A shock to the culture that would change its direction of development forever. Even to another direction.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, take for example a massive environmental change. Britain just suddenly freezes over with snow. It becomes like Iceland, becomes like Antarctica
for a few centuries.
For the next 300 years, that is going to vastly change how British people behave in Britain. And
assuming they didn't emigrate. Assuming they didn't move out. But what I mean is, those who moved out will then be subject to living under other peoples in other people's countries, which would still alter their behavior.
Okay, let us go back for a moment to the topic you have discussed already, Banksy. Devin Tracy, AIU.
Yes.
He is from Britain originally, but to be honest with you, he is like every Californian Democrat, fucking annoying.
Yeah.
He changed totally his culture.
So his roots, his genetics are British, but his behavior is distinctly American. So I mean, how?
But the American culture is just an extension of European culture, not English, but European culture. It's the melting pot of the European race.
So
it is an aggregate of. So let me give you examples. I've lived in the U.S. a long time, right? Let me give you examples. If I travel between states and I travel across the Mason-Dixie line, if I go up and I go into the lake counties and towards Michigan, I can see morphological differences of the Scandinavians and Germans, and I can see the changes in their language.
Yeah.
So I can see the ethnicities melting, but if I went to the other parts of the United States, where let's say there's a Francophile influence, I would see the changes over there. So I can see their genetic things averaging out in what is white Americanism, but still maintaining things that are particularly, if you come from Europe, you can see a particularly European. But if I go to Europe and I hop countries, all I have to do is cross Aachen. I go to Cologne a lot. If I go to Aachen, I cross the German-French border, within 5 to 10 kilometers, I can see the cultural difference. So the ethnicity from the genetics actually expresses itself phenotypically. If I wipe all this clear and I smash this Steven Pinker blank slate nonsense once and all I have to do is start plotting statistically what variation of high order traits. Let me give you simple examples. Do you know what percentage of your political views are hereditary? Genetically?
No, I mean, you mean there are political views that are.
I'm taking high order social functions. Correct. I'm taking everything is a balance. Think of everything as a percentage of genetic versus nature versus nurture. And everything is at a seesaw level, right? There's nothing that's 0 or 100 unless we show this is not genetically propagated. Sure. If anything is genetically propagated, divorce is 40%. Divorce is 32%. Politics is 40%. So I told Mohammed Mijab, I said, hey, you look like a kind of peaceful, happy Muslim. And he kind of laughed at me. He said, yeah, my dad was quite liberal. And I said, hey, Mohammed Mijab, a softie. Do you know 40% of your genetics is given by 20% of your DNA from your father? You're a softie. You wouldn't really go to ISIS, Mohammed Mijab. Yeah, I can see in your eyes. You're a bit of a softie. You're kind of like this. But 40% of what you think is precious, your ego tells you, the liberal ego tells you, this is mine, this is my abstraction. The high order behavior can also be correlated to DNA. Now, one individual doesn't mean he's going to do that. Any one individual is non-deterministic, but the group behavior looks deterministic.
I mean,
does that make sense, man?
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Because I was making the argument that we don't seem to have any problem about physical differences. When it comes to races and their physical attributes, nobody disputes that. No
problem.
I have never heard a single person argue the case of why is it that the black community or the black people dominate boxing, dominate track and field, dominate sports, basketball.
Well, actually, they don't dominate boxing anymore. Just
no, I mean they still do for the most part. They have done throughout the recent history anyway. So I mean to sort of nobody argues about that. Nobody goes, oh, this is racist. Why are the blacks all so much more physically? It's racism that's created the given the black superiority.
But this is the funny thing, and this is why I asked you that question originally, mate. It's where is it? Ask them where is it in the biological intellectual stack that the magic happens, right? Can I share my screen again, mate?
Yeah. Hold on, let me jump on. Yeah, go.
So let me just flip a couple of quick slides that gets them, because then you can go take arguments with them, come back and beat me up again, man. So if I look at the intellectual stack, right? If I look at the intellectual stack at scale, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see.
So if I look at the hard sciences, so this left thing is the scale of the universe. If I look at the scale as a human, one scale diameter. I know the formal sciences. I sit here at the bottom with theoretical computer science. I get physics, I get chemistry, I get cellular biology and functional biology, and then I go into the wishy-washy social sciences, psychology, sociology, economics, etc. Then I get to the hard sciences that taught back at astronomy. The question then is, if you believe that until now these are witchcraft sciences, if you look at the future of the merging of these witchcraft sciences, psychology, philosophy, linguistics, and neuroscience are going to merge into computational cognitive science. Okay. We are going to take all these disciplines and wrap them up and say, what is a computational cognitive model of the mind based in neurochemistry and based in science and biology and DNA? I should be able to pull back up the correct model of this gap over here. Right now, this stuff is witchcraft. Psychology, philosophy, economics, this is all pure witchcraft. We're coming for these disciplines and we're doing it using data and computational techniques. And we see for any behavior at the group level, individual level, like you said correctly, Banksy, my physiology is different, my anatomy is different, my morphology is different, my endocrinology is different. But boom, the mind shows up and then suddenly it's all
the same.
Where does that magic happen?
Well, this is what I mean.
Yeah, where did the magic
It's like they've got no problem. They've got no problem with saying black people have much larger muscle mass. They have higher testosterone levels. They are, on average, heavier, boned, taller, stronger, etc., etc. None of those things are a debate. Nobody questions those attributes, especially if they're in the positive. But then all of a sudden, when it gets to the brain, oh no, we're all identical. We're all exactly the same when it comes to the brain.
And it's going to get worse, mate, because if you look at the 8 new disciplines attacking this old witchcraft, and it is witchcraft, Banksy. It is witchcraft. I'm a hard scientist, right? I'm a theoretical computer scientist. Nothing to do with computing, right? It's the maths of everything, right? As far as I'm concerned. If you look at the 8 disciplines that's going to blow away this layer, there's 2 ways to think of this. One is it's a mechanistic analysis of social behavior, which is molecular biology feeding cell biology feeding neuroscience for behavioral genetics. That's the mechanics of Banksy. And then it's your social behavior, which is going to take your phylogeny, which is your historical tree of your DNA, your population biology, your group, your behavioral ecology and social biology as evolutionary analytics on the left, giving us the next discipline in the 10, 20 years, which is sociogenomics.
Yeah.
Which takes all these lefties in your Discord servers and makes them eat shit.
Well, this is what I mean. But okay.
This is going to wire your biology, wire your group, wire your population. Say all this Marx, Weber, Durkheim bollocks is just poppycock. It's like fucking alchemy, mate. None of it has any science
Well,
behind it, right?
this is the thing. Admittedly, they were pressing me, saying you don't actually have a model, you don't have any actual evidence of any of these, in the sense that I don't have a hard studies. But I push back by simply saying, I think the reason these studies haven't been carried out is because of the political nature of this particular
Political
thing.
and financial. No, political,
Yeah.
Banksy, and financial. We know there's two ways. We know this is political and financial because look at what happened to Dr. James Watson. Anyone who speaks about evolutionary biology, evolutionary molecular biology, evolutionary psychology, race realism are thrown out, and then financially, the way the
Destroyed.
education system wins, there's no granting for funds to research in the first place.
But
You can't say, hey, can you give me something that researches black crime in the UK as a function of epinephrine levels? Good luck getting that research grant.
exactly.
Because use the word black and use the word epinephrine. Even though epinephrine controls for aggression controls for crime.
Well, this is exactly
No way of
it.
researching it. Yeah, they won't let you look.
Yeah, but okay. Now I wanna pivot a little bit to something else that you were. I saw one of your streams where a transgender individual
sorry.
was talking to Nick Fuentes. And I've been thinking about this.
Lady Maga.
Yes, yeah, Lady Maga one, and I wanted to press you on some of the things that you said in that video when you were critiquing the Lady Gaga individual in regards to not so much well, it wasn't so much as what you thought about the Lady Gaga thing. That part of it, I'm not really bothered. But I was struck by the moment when you said we should have decency laws because of the way he was or she was dressed and the way. Now, to me, when someone talks about decency laws and
It triggers you, obviously.
of course, because you know where I come from. You know how I can't live in a society where we have morality police running around the streets. That to me is the Islamic Republic of Iran. And what you were saying to me just screamed Islamic Republic of Iran. At what point do you think you and your Christian version of theocracy and theocratic morality police are going to be better than the mullahs of Iran's morality police?
It's a great question, and the way to answer that correctly is going to be: where are we currently on the spectrum of decency laws? How did we get to this position, and does this pendulum need to restore? I think we can all agree when bearded men spread their legs in libraries for little children, the pendulum has gone one way. Am I advocating of it to returning to the Puritan laws of Christian Europe? No, not. I'm arguing that we identify it as being morally bankrupt and then legislate by law, increasingly re-legislate the things that bring it back to where I think you like to see it in the center. I would not conflate my desire to reverse it for a puritanical vision of people wandering around getting all tear on your ass because you like to masturbate at home in the porn, right? Yeah, I'm not going to do that to you.
Okay. And speaking of Britain and speaking of decency laws, well, I have to tell you that you have reached far. I mean, you have gone much more far than we have actually. In Poland, you don't have such a thing.
You're Polish, brother.
Hate crime, for
good man.
example. Excuse me?
Yeah, of course. God bless the Polish people, and we believe the Polish people and the Slavic people in general are there to save the rest of Western Europe if things go really bad. But God bless my Polish patriots. No, I know. I just have to get in some propaganda, man. I have to get in some propaganda. But yeah, it's much. I know. I'm saying it's much worse here than places like Poland because if you look at it, how did we get here is key to understanding what the position is in the debate. How did we get here? We didn't get here by accident. We got here by two different processes. One is the process of the Enlightenment that allowed liberalism to unwrap or unwind the social tapestry, leading to more and more freedom, rights, and therefore removing any sense of group ideas, like group shaming is an evolutionary biology strategy. The social fabric would shame, would correct for individual errors. So the liberal process from the Enlightenment and the last 80 years or 60 years has been the far left taking it as a proactive attack on Western Christian family nuclear values. So the first thing we need to do is unwind this far left bit, and then we can have a decent conversation with liberals.
Yeah,
Until we
clean.
get that, there's no conversation to be had with liberals, right? We're going to unwind this whole thing first, right? We have to. I mean, we don't want. I'm sorry, but bearded men spreading their legs with lipstick. If that's what your liberal society produces in your freedom, I will restrict your freedom. If you're arguing my freedom says it's okay for a man to do this, I disagree with you. I say your freedom and his freedom means nothing to me. I'd rather protect the collective benefits of the child
Well,
against your freedom. And you're going to have to mount an argument against me as to why you're better. Because all I have to do for evidence is show you the bearded man spreading his legs and twerking for a child.
Well,
well,
Are you
I
telling me
didn't.
that liberal thing is, yeah, I mean,
No,
this
I
is the
didn't
take that.
problem.
want to say that. I have other things on mind, to be honest. This have gone too far, but I have other things on mind that I know that certain things, racial topics, or even, I mean, saying them in public would bring me in Britain to trouble. And it wouldn't bring me in Poland to trouble. For example, if I would say that I don't that Muslims don't integrate, I know for a fact that I could get in trouble if I would say that in Britain that Muslims don't integrate and they pose a threat. I mean, their religion to the freedom of this country. When a person in your country have been convicted for citing Churchill, that should have really scared me. To be honest, we haven't we haven't arrived yet there in Poland. To be honest,
Yeah, I
No,
mean,
that
in Poland, you can still say, my Polish friends can still say, oh, I don't want to live with black and brown people. And that's okay to say.
yeah, yeah. But I mean,
I mean,
one thing I just want to get to this, is you see, again, I understand when you say you want to course correct and you want to swing the pendulum back in order to sort of push it back towards the center. I just You see, my problem is you're asking me to trust you that you will only bring it to the center,
yes.
and you have no, no. I'm talking to Ralph, MC.
Sorry.
Ralph says, "Trust me. All I'm trying to do
No, I
is
don't.
course correct."
No, I don't.
Okay, then. So you don't want me to
No,
trust you.
I'm not. But trust is a mathematical function of time. I'm telling you what we're doing, and I want you to agree or disagree that what we're doing is correct. But you don't have to go all the way. You don't have to go where you are.
Yes,
If your
but
argument is like your
when you go to
good argument that says the people who start revolutions don't end it. Well, my question is the only way to make sure the person doesn't. Because you had me thinking about that one for a while, Banksy. We wasted one of my tube trips thinking about it through logic. But the only way to yeah, cunt. Yeah, waste my cheap trip times on things of valuable things I need to think about. But yeah, so the way not to, the guys who start revolutions don't finish them. I thought about that and went through all the game theory models. I like, okay, it's a good point. The only way for you to make sure the person who doesn't start the revolution doesn't finish it is to join the revolution, man.
well, yeah, but the thing is, you see,
Because the revolution's going to happen anyway. In the same way, the only way for you to make sure we don't overcompensate or undercompensate, however you wish to characterize the swing of the pendulum, is to be part of the process. You could resist it because you think I'd rather deal with bearded ladies on one end versus, let's say, mullahs running around or like Sharia patrols. Sure, I get the argument. But if you're not with us in a sense, or you don't have to be with us, but if you're not oppositional, then you don't have our interests. If you're against us, then you might catch our interest. But we're going to do this anyway, Banksy. So the question then becomes, where do you sit? And I would argue, I have good friends, Banksy, for many years. One of my oldest friends is maybe 20, I've known him for 25 years. He fucking wants to fight me to the death because he's a liberal. He wants to be a liberal and he's going to come after me going, my liberal. And I like him, I know him a long time. He's a mate of mine. And he's like, nah, fuck you, man. Freedom first, right? So he's going to argue for the freedom stuff, but he's going to maintain that dialogue and continue the argumentation that we've done. And sometimes he sends me like 17 fucking page long emails of argumentation, right?
well,
So I mean,
exactly. I
is
mean,
that determined to stop us? Right?
I'm not interested in becoming kind of taking the atheist Steve's side in direct adversarial, because I don't think that works, because I think you're already going to get that from the left, and you're going to and the younger groypers are just going to brush all that Nazis straight off their shoulders. It's going to be water on the
Yes,
duck's
they're going
back.
to seek you. They're going to seek you, right?
Yeah,
That's what they're going to do. They're
so
going to send you
I
frogs
don't
and
think
stuff.
that's. I mean, that's going to affect. I mean, that those sort of stuff. Once the real media, because right now I think you guys had like a Vice article
That's
written
happening right now,
about Unwashed.
It's coming out.
Yeah, well, there was a Vice. I already saw a Vice thing come out. So this is catching on. People, those types of publications are picking it up. So they're gonna bombard you guys with
Mate,
Nazi.
we're coming, all of them. No, we're coming for all of them in 2020 and 21 in a coordinated effort. The BBC, every single mainstream channel is going to have to address our arguments, even if it means they're only addressing us to call us names, they're still talking about us. And the audience there's going to look and say, but these guys don't look like Nazis. And then they're going to listen to us in the meta-political space. So yeah, they're coming. We're going for them. They're not just coming for us.
The thing is, I listened to your Laura Downer, I think it is, that girl, in regards to we're going to dress up better and we're not going to have the tattoo with the bag of Stella in it, and that's why I posted in the link. Hitler wore a tie, and the Hugo Boss designed the Nazi outfits. So trust me, I'm not gonna. Nobody's gonna buy that a bunch of neo-Nazis wearing suits are gonna somehow be better. Are you gonna dress better than Hugo Boss? I somehow doubt that Mark Collette has better suits than Hugo Boss can design. So,
but you know what? We don't worry. I think that was an anti-bad presentation argument as opposed to a pro-good one. We don't care about the presentation as much as we care about the content of the word.
Yeah.
And slowly they're creeping. The Guardian and all are going to start writing within the next year or two. They've been writing a series of pieces that are anti-demographic. And what we're winning in the metapolitical space is they're talking about demographics even if they're going against it.
Yeah.
And that's our objective, right? First metapolitical, right?
But yeah,
we will talk about our topics.
Either way, I just don't see. I don't really think that's gonna make a huge. I mean, sure, visually, optics might be slightly.
But Banksy, mate, you're old enough. Banksy, you're old enough. You remember 2013 and 14 all the way to 2016 and 18. We changed everything for Trump 2020, right? We did. Every media, everything that eventually finished with Charlottesville and Richard Spencer not fucking taking advice from others.
Yeah.
But we're not going anywhere. We're back again. So if you imagine what we did from 2012 to now, imagine how much better we are now, and imagine how much smarter, quicker, high IQ young boys we have dedicated to the core to do nothing but this. Come on, mate. Alt-Right 1 was a picnic compared to Alt-Right 2 coming, mate. We're 2.0, man. Think of the feature set. We're 2.0. Our CPUs are better. Our
Roginator 2.0.
Isn't he on version 9, like Windows 98? Isn't he? Yeah. His every one of his releases are breaking feature sets and going backwards, mate.
I mean, again, my contentions are that, number one, for me, it was the very, very stark reality and comparisons and draws of the Islamic Republic of Iran and the things that you were saying about the transgender person. Yeah. The other point which I found is when Street Soldier was doing this political compass test with a couple of ladies. I forgot the names of the ladies, but they were I don't know if you saw that one or not. But they were taking these political compass tests, and they were going through the various questions. And one of the questions, and although there was a few other questions that I think we could have picked holes in, but one of the questions was, do you want religion taught in schools? And almost without any hesitation, all three, both Streets and the two ladies, all of them said, oh yes, absolutely, we would like to, we want to have religion back in school. And immediately my thought on that was, okay, Muslims like to have religion in their schools too. So are we in favor of madrasas in London?
No, there's a slight mistake. There's a slight mistake there. You misunderstand our position. We want to teach Christianity, and we want to make all the other religions illegal.
Some
no, good religion. Only it's just
right reaction. Right. Yeah. I'm sorry to disrupt you, but we have religion in school. In Poland, we have Catholicism, and frankly, it's one big shit show when the kids mostly ignore the priest or when they are older, of course, or the religious teacher, who the fuck ever that person is, and it's frankly it's such a it have created such a bureaucratic mischief there, and frankly. It's a waste of money, especially public money, my own money, because I haven't voted. I haven't been asked if I want to pay for that. Pay from my own tax money to brainwash children of my own country to that.
Well, exactly. But this is the
Well,
thing. You're saying, oh, you just want Christianity. So the Hindus be damned, the Buddhists be damned, the Sikhs be damned, especially the Muslims be damned, but it's Christianity. So you are advocating for a Christian theocracy. We're again, that pendulum.
no,
How far are you going to swing for that
no.
pendulum, and who's going to be pushing back?
That's the
Well,
point.
no, but there's only two views of this. One is those who don't believe in God, and those that do. To the ones who don't believe in God camp, I say it's none of your business because you're individual atheists, right? You're thinking, the Polish
Yes,
gentleman is thinking about
but
mud
also
GDP
my
argument
children
against
have to go to
Christianity.
those schools.
No, no, but yeah, well, if you don't want to be
Okay,
in a Christian country with
okay, right.
Christian
It's not only
education,
about
you should
religion
go
in
live in
schools.
another country, right?
Aha!
It's not only about
Now we
religion in
get
schools.
into that. You see, now you're no longer talking to just the Muslims and the Sikhs and the
But,
Hindus and the Buddhists.
but
Now
Banksy, let
you're
me
rubbing a
counter.
lot of
But
people the
Banksy,
wrong
but,
way.
no, no, but Banksy, let me put it to you this way: you're choosing to live in the products, be them purely cultural and not material, because after all, Christianity is spiritual. You're choosing to vote with your dollars and live in Christian countries. Must
No,
be
no,
something
no,
about
no, no.
Christian culture you like.
This is the main
I mean,
crux
do you
of
think
it.
this arrived? Do you
Is that
think London? But do you think London and England arrived because of there was no Christianity in its history?
oh no, no,
Do you think this is an
absolutely. I
accident
think
that the first
Christianity.
one?
I absolutely
I
believe
Right
Christianity plays a
reaction.
role, but Christianity is
Rem-
no longer the dominant role in this society,
okay,
and that's the
let me
reason why
remind you
I'm in this
something,
society.
all of you.
Sorry, go ahead.
Let me then remind you one thing. By the way, first Britain was a Catholic country. Then came Henry the Fifth,
Exactly.
and frankly, Anglicanism exists only and just only because he wanted to fuck another woman. To be honest, that's the root of your religion. Now,
To some extent, I mean, you've somewhat simplified that,
that, that's. I was just going to say that's a very elementary reading of the
yeah,
greatest wars fought by England,
that
and
was.
I'll take that as an elementary reading. I mean, that's all I can say to that.
But
But
what
nevertheless, the macro,
the Pope
the
didn't
macro
want to be
phenomenon is
divorced.
if you wish to live in a secular country and you believe secular countries are going to win because your idea is to stay away from religious forcing indoctrination, whatever you want to call the negativity of religion. On the other hand, therefore, the battle is not for you individuals. It's going to be, are you going to fight religious people with atheism? And
Well,
my question is, how's that working out? How's that going to work out for you? Like,
well,
how's that working out with the religion
well, it's
of
working out.
peace?
It's worked
Have all
out.
the Muslims been, have the Muslims have been saying, Banksy, hey Banksy, you're right, man. I'm gonna like reverse my shahada right now. I've read my law, my liberal. I want to watch some porn. I'm gonna undo the shahada. Or is the community of the ummah going to kill them
Well,
if they even think
this is
about
what
it,
I
mate?
mean. This is what I'm
how's
saying,
it
Ralph.
working out?
That you're gonna. How is that gonna work out for you when you start to talk about? I mean, right now, sure, you're gathering your Christian, if you like, brethren together. Englander is
Yes.
Christian. Streets has found his religion.
Oh
James Goddard
yeah.
has found his religion. So these guys,
Oh man, yeah.
Jada Gooding, Jada
Oh,
Franson. Sure, you're gonna have
yeah.
that little gathering. This is the early days, and this is the low
Most of
hanging
the European
fruits.
leaders go to church. Yeah, but most of the European leaders currently in political office, if I remember, take all the members of parliament for the right wing, not the left, they all go to church. Most of them, even if they're showing and they're not real Christians, they're cultural Christians, they're still going to church because their population wants them to
Well,
be
that's
seen
what I
to be
mean.
doing so. This is
These are
just a
the
force over
these
our
are
politics.
so
It's
when
just one of Batman's two kids, Fart.
I just want to
Right?
know
It's just a two kids.
when I will have to contend not so much
When to leave.
with an Arab sword at my neck saying you see the light of Allah in the reflection of my sword. Instead, it'll be a crusader's sword at my neck who says
Given my
you either
estimation of age,
accept Jesus as your
given
Lord
my
and Savior.
estimation, no, but Banksy, man, given the estimation of your age and the current long-term temporal cycles, I think by the time it really hits you in the face, you'll be an old man. You won't care anymore. You won't be able to get it up. Don't you worry about it.
Is that
The
what you
question,
think?
the question to you is going to be, which one would you rather have on you, a scimitar or a sword?
Well, that's the thing. I would rather have neither. I don't want to have that. I don't
Yeah,
want to be in that position. So that's where my resistance or my pushback will come, and I think there will be plenty of others even those amongst your ranks who you think are on your side, I
But
think they
that's
find
an
that.
internal battle. But that's an internal battle for us. Think of that as an internal
Mm,
conflict, and that's okay. We'll sort it out between ourselves. But the resulting pack will be nationalist. The question is who's playing number one and number two on the team. Is the number one going to be the atheist Nat, or is the number one going to be the Christian Nat? But atheists and Christian Nats will be number one and two on the team
I suppose. I suppose.
because
I mean, the thing is, right now you have plenty of low-hanging fruits to pick. I'm just
we're going
concerned when
to.
the fruits of the floor at the lower levels are gone, and then you have to start reaching.
Well, Banksy man, you should pour yourself a nice drink, sit back, relax, a nice cocktail whiskey glass, and enjoy the show.
The thing,
Enjoy the
as
show.
much as
You're doing a good job.
I won't, I don't come across, or I won't come as aggressively as Simon, or Steve, or Raj, or
You call
anyone else.
that you call,
I'm
you
not.
call that
I'm
sorry,
not.
I'm sorry, Banksy. You call that aggressive?
Well, what I mean is that
Those three
outward sort of hostile, sort of,
handbag swinging kind of thing.
yeah, that sort of impression. I am no less a adversary.
Look,
Don't
mate,
think that
look, mate. In terms of Simon,
I'm
I know, you're not. I rank you highly as someone who's going to fight for the liberal freedoms. I hear you, man. You don't fool me. Remember, I'm in this for
exactly,
the.
because I saw those political tests, and I heard those women and those ladies take those tests, and they are essentially, they all came out actually liberal on the test. Did you notice that most of them came out centrist,
Well, the women are
left,
different,
center
and it's
left,
just yeah, of course.
patriots?
And some of them are liberals. Yeah, but remember, they're not the ones leading; they're being
Mm.
led.
But yes, but
Ask yourself
those are your ranks. Those are the people who you have to
correct.
actually
But the
depend on
Pareto principle.
to
No, but the
to
Pareto
get
principle
this
says
movement
the
going.
Pareto. But the no, but the Pareto principle says only 20% lead the 80 for all shapes. It's a fundamental curve. So I would ask yourself how the 20 have taken the political compass, and you get a different answer, mate. But
Well, I
but
would
more
like to
interestingly,
see Mark Collette's
I like the
political
fact that you're
compass
not.
test.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You know, he's ever so slightly sort of left leaning on the social policies, right?
Well, yeah, I mean,
You could call him some.
it would
You
be
might
quite
call him some
interesting.
sort of socialist. You may call him some sort of socialist if you like,
He
because
may
he believes
fall
in.
into that
Mark
ranks. I
Collett
don't
is
know.
in a way a socialist, just a national socialist.
Sorry.
he, he believes in the NHS being public
Well,
Yes,
and the
state-funded
railways.
shit. And I cannot,
state-funded.
I will never agree with him.
Well, this
I
is
am
what I mean.
against
This is what I mean.
as less
But the
state
thing is,
interference as possible for me.
he just wants to.
Yeah, but with the deepest respect, mate, you're Polish citizens, so your agreement, explicit or implicit, doesn't change the outcome of the game. Banksy, however, has the right to vote. So,
Yeah,
he's a,
this is exactly
Well,
it.
well, you can.
I at least have that ability to make that decision.
yeah.
But what I mean is, these are the things that I personally have got grievances, and I think the people in your ranks, when I see these political tests, when I hear them say they want
Mate,
religion in schools, but they don't actually mean
but
madrasas.
that's why it's so much more fun on the right, mate. This is the myth or mythos portrayed by the left, which is to atomize us as a collective. We're spectrum opinions. So Miss Simon, Philly Sy, for example, doesn't understand. We have raging battles about gay people, but they're under our terms, not his. His is my right to attack my anus, for example, is my primary Lockean principle of society. We look at it, half the camp are benevolent towards gays. They say it doesn't matter. His genes aren't propagating.
I'm
He's
not
just die
entirely
out.
sure whether you may say that, but I've seen those
No, I'm
negative
telling you there's a no, I'm telling you
you know,
that
comparing
I'm telling you
with
openly.
pedophiles and all the other sort
Well,
of text
hang on.
messages that scroll in those in
Oh,
the
but I'm sorry,
cybercam.
Banksy. I'm sorry, Banksy, but no, I'm saying there's a spectrum of views. But hang on a second. Queer people. Have you read any of the modern ultra queer theory?
I don't know
The
what
queer
you mean.
people, the queer people make from Foucault downwards very strong argumentation for the support of paedophilia. Out outspoken advocates tracing their work to Foucault. When we point it out, you go, gays, queer is bad. But when we point you to the primary source of their material, then it was tolerance. So if you think LGBT is not progressing to P and B, then you're not reading all the queer theory as stated not by me, but by the camp. They're saying, and I use the word camp there playfully, They themselves, not the way we would use it, and
I,
Mein Kampf,
I,
but
I again,
they themselves, Banksy. They themselves, Banksy, are. I can give you some great videos to watch. Watch Keith Woods just depicting a breakdown of how they teach their activists. They are arguing in LGBTQ educations in schools everywhere for the connection of pedophilia, as traced by Foucault, all the way down the queer theology and the queer ontologies for pedophilia. This is not me saying this, not Ralph saying this. This is not a bunch of frogs saying, hey, get that guy. This is them saying it.
well,
So now the media funny thing is you think that me telling you this information is somewhat different from the information being true. And my response to that is, why didn't you go check before we see each other next? I'll send you a bunch of
that's what I
links.
would have to. I guess I've got some homework.
Absolutely.
But
Because they're
nevertheless,
advocating for this.
I mean, I don't think I think it's grossly unfair to equate homosexuals with pedophilia or pedophiles. I think that I mean, no matter what
Hey,
some of their
Banksy,
people
I'm
say,
with you. I'm
it's
so glad you
grossly
said
unfair.
that, Banksy. I'm so glad. So will you join me, Banksy, then having a go at the queer population for doing such things?
But they, I mean,
If you believe that they're doing
if
so.
their leaders or if any one particular person did, then maybe that individual should be addressed. But I don't think the LGBT community certainly would agree on those premises that they should.
Okay, Banksy, but what you don't understand is that the LGBT is also an ideology. Gays and lesbians are people that they haven't born with it.
Yeah.
They don't want to push this sexualization of children. I'm fine with them.
What do you mean?
But there are certain ones that would like to teach about those things, twerking.
What do you mean
For
like to? They're
example,
teaching them right
6-year-old.
now.
Yeah.
That is only an example.
I mean, again, this is why even in the LGBT community, you'll find that the T and the LGs are dividing. There are groups that are now emerging which are actually excluding or pushing back against the transgender agenda and all this, drag
Not just
queen story
transgender.
time. There are actually gay people, gay and lesbian people, who are pushing against the what's it called, drag queen story times and all of these
Oh,
nonsense things.
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there are gay people who are pushing back against this because they are being smeared by the transgender movement, and they're
But
getting
it's not just a
the shit end of the
transgender,
stick too.
Banksy. What you know what's happening is as we in the right push. Here's what's happening actually. When we push back what was created and bundled as a sky package of LGBTQP and how we see it projecting into BNA, let's more roll back time for the correct analysis and say where did it come from in the first place and when. It shows up in the early writings in the 60s, 70s, followed by a fight for gay rights in the 70s to the Stonewall legislation to the 80s. The postmoderns jump in the 90s and goes from gay rights to now transgender is right at the top, bestiality and animals, and pedophilia on their explicit target. I'll show you primary source material. You don't believe me, assume it's an argumentation hypothesis. But once we push back on it and the Simon Laws, what they're going to have to do is divide and break ranks. You're seeing this with the TERFs at the tip of the 5 levels. You're seeing this with the trans-exclusive radical feminists tipping it. You know who was just deplatformed at Oxford, right? And the TERF thing is not going to be enough. We're snowballing the reverse. The next bit is the queer bit. The queer bit, for example, is advocating for total sexual degeneracy and a purest individual sexualization, as Foucault says, from the age of 5 or 6 of Judith Butler, from the age of 6 to 8. And for the last 30 years, they've indoctrinated this suddenly active LGBT communities, people running everywhere. They didn't just come to these thoughts themselves. They were educated, and we know how and when and by whom. So as we push back in, you see the ordinary gays, like Simon, get nervous because they signed up to a Sky package of 5 things, and the 5s and the 4s and 3s are coming. They're going to go up and form an inner ring that says lesbian and gays only against everyone else.
Well,
They're going to take the bisexuals with them first. They'll take the bisexuals with them first, and they'll probably fall LGB and break ranks
well,
from the next, which is the Q and the
like
T.
Douglas Murray. I was watching an interview with Douglas Murray just today as I was driving to a fairly distant place, and that's exactly what Douglas Murray is talking about. Douglas Murray is saying the normal people did not just learn or just come to the conclusion that male genitalia and female genitalia have no significance anymore, that gender is just a construct. No, these things were taught, and they were not taught at the pub. You didn't pick it up at the pub. These were institutional, sort of educational establishments which came up with these things. So there was some sort of, I guess he was hinting that there are some agendas.
But there's no, but there's
there are
no,
people with agendas.
Banksy. No, Banksy is more. It's simpler than that. We know that primary source material. If I drew a timeline, I know you're technical. If I drew a timeline and reversed it for 50 years, and I plotted the population by age, and I reversed the time they grew and when they went to college, school, and university, and then I outlay it as the coming from the first, the PhD comparative literature department, we know where it came from, through the philosophy department, everywhere else, this 80s, 90s, and 2000s education of children into this, we can see how it arrived. Now we're knocking down level 5 and 4 of it. We're knocking down the trans bit. Then we're going to go after the queer bit, which leaves the lesbian and gay plus bisexuals. They'll form the initial ring of 3 of them, and they're going to distance themselves from the queer. I'm telling you, the queer introduces, it's the advanced avant-garde looking for little children. That's what it is in its own words, not my words, its words. So and this LGBT is going to be left with lesbians, gays, assignments, the female versions, and the bats for both sides. Right, types, and they're going to break into a ring and go anti-trans and anti-queer. After that, we're going to look at the lesbian gays, and we're going to break that up using the equivalent of race realism, which is gender realism.
But are you saying?
And this is a debate on the right, and we don't mean any harm, because right now half the school of us on the right, I'm just telling you, Banksy, openly, don't care about the gays negatively, because the argument is co-calculating genetics. These people aren't producing any more offspring; they can just die out. There are others who have more proactive views than gays, but I'll tell you a large percentage of the right, just look at the gays going, who cares? They have no skin in the game, only foreskin in their mind. They're not going to produce genetic offspring.
Homosexuals are reproducing these days anyway. I mean, they can actually reproduce.
Well, but I'm saying they're not a big concern for us demographically.
Yeah.
The other ones are more culturally damaging on the nuclear family. And their level of we're coming up in reverse order, right? And you can see that on the trans, and you can see it in queer next. Now, my money next 12 months, all these guys are going to run into their shut. Go on.
So, do you think it's because of the right's pressure that the LGBT
Correct.
groups are now splintering into the LGB that are separating themselves from the Ts, or is it because the Ts have overplayed their hand? And now people are just simply.
Well, of course, the T's have over the hand, but the cultural renaissance of the culture wars, which arguably started around 2008 and 9, flew its way into the early 2010s and 11s. This long process of the culture war, means we've got our young people caught up with what we think. They are the ones going after this thing that's downstream to you, the red pilling, I don't like feminism, I don't like Islam. This is downstream for the thinking. We're going after the core that they turf. Now, this is catching up, and sure, the gay men, they've overplayed the T thing with the bearded men at libraries, but we're coming for them anyway. Because ultimately, for us, the thing that broke the family was the equivalence of homosexuality and heterosexuality. It made the minority equal. We're not there to violate the minority, but you're not going to pretend anymore that the minority equals the majority under some false liberal idea of equality.
No, but Ralph,
a homosexual man is not a heterosexual.
No, but Ralph,
and I don't hate gay people, dude.
I can't honestly say that I can truly believe these things that you say when you make claims that the truth is downstream from your morality, that you actually have right-wing takia. When you say those things, how can I possibly believe that you will not become exceedingly hostile to these minority groups once you gain the position of powers that you aspire to attain? I can't understand why would I even entertain that you are truthful about these things when I know that you play loose and fast with the truth.
But Banksy, my answer remains the same: is I don't want you to, nor am I asking you to, nor would I wish you to do any such thing.
What I mean is,
I would wish you to. No, I would wish you to listen to what I say.
But you're in the business of convincing others to join your group.
Banksy. I'm not asking anyone to join anything.
Of
Nationalists will
course you
come
are.
on a
I've
pop.
hear your streams. Laura Tyler literally was begging for help and groups to form in different parts of the country, and for you
Yes,
guys to donate and to do this and to
I think
subscribe.
you, Banksy,
Of course, you're in the
Banksy, I
business
think
of
you misunderstand.
attention.
Banksy, I think you misunderstand. I'm just being modest and shy. I'm not saying we're not doing so. I'm saying I'm not asking you to.
No, you're not
Very big
asking
difference.
me to, but what I mean is,
No, of
I
course.
am in the business of
But let me tell you
countering
what I'm asking you, Banksy.
your.
But let me tell you let me tell you what I am asking you to do. I'm asking you to instead take what I've said and not trust it, and instead go off by yourself and verify it yourself, and then continue the process of refutation or acceptance.
Oh no! I accept. I can go and look at the things you mentioned in regards to the pedophilia and the homosexual or
Absolutely.
the LGBT groups and movements and their original founding, if you like, people. That part I can independently check for myself.
Happy
I'm
to
not talking
assist.
about that. I'm talking about when you talk about your
Ah,
future intentions and what you will and what wish and want and will do and won't
but
do,
my answer to
etc.,
that one,
etc.
Banksy, is the same. My answer to that, Banksy, is the same. Is the only way, because you had me thinking, like I said, in the tube, and it was quite irksome, is that the only way to counter that argument is to say, look, either you can watch the revolution from the sidelines, but if it fears that the initial revolutionaries will not be the final one, then they will have a different set of claims. Hey, do you want to be on the sideline, or do you want to be into the thing that's changing and revolutionizing the world and society they're in?
Well,
You
I
can be
mean, the
the
thing
inside or
is,
outside of that.
as much as
Because the
I
thing
may
is going
not
to
be
occur
on the
anyway.
inside. Well, no, the thing is, as much as I may not be on the inside, I
Correct.
don't I don't think your movement will ever even take off before it won't even spread its wings before it's clipped. So I'm not I don't have to be
And
on the
who's going to
inside to
do
watch it.
this?
There is plenty of
Us.
people, dude, that are gonna come for you. It hasn't even begun. The actual
I know, we know, but remember we're,
onslaught
but
has
remember we're,
barely
yeah,
begun.
but remember we're going to them. We are the shorter, faster,
Yeah.
more powerful guerrilla force. We're
Well,
not waiting for them to come to us. We're knocking on their doors. We've got Nigel Farage, LBC. Everyone knows now. And the next 12 months, the next 12, 15 months, they're going to be talking about it like all right one everywhere. Opinion pieces, editorial. They will be.
look, I
And
agree.
that's when you say they're going to come for us. And we have our arguments. So right now, I'm not nervous about any one of us being put in front, Laura Mark, anyone in front of a BBC News night. I'm holding ground. Because the argumentation is where, like you, if the argumentation is weak, Banksy, hey, mate, I'm out.
Mm.
Yeah, mate, take you with me. Let's go together. If this place is going that way, dude, you and I, no
Find a
problem.
nice
We got an island
beach.
together. Hey, we're global creatures.
Mm.
We've been around the world. There are other places yeah, but right now I don't hear a single argument that makes me think otherwise. So, and not to the people who agree with me. So
Well,
that's the game for us.
I
It's a fun one. And
I
notice,
will
for example,
see.
how the lefties, the James, the FT, the ones you have to jump, they're not prepared, are they, Banksy? You're smart. You and Joseph are the only two people in the cut, and maybe James SC, except he's got an Islamo fetish, and
Yeah,
that's
James
really are the
SC
only two people I
is
think are capable of
he's
handling
too
the
laser
argument.
focused on Islam. I think he should actually start to
They're fetishized.
look a little bit
And the real
else
problem.
outside. Well, the thing is,
Look at the real
I
fact.
think that the war is fought on many fronts, as most wars are, and this isn't. I mean, for someone like my perspective, my position, same as James SC's, I would imagine, we are not fighting this purely on just we don't want an Islamic caliphate in Britain. We're fighting this as we don't want any caliphate or any Christendom or any of these things in Britain. So, as much as I'm keeping my eye firmly on the Muslims, I certainly don't want any Christendom, any man with a cross on his on his chest to come and knock on my door
Yeah,
any more than I would a crescent moon.
yeah.
So for
I want
me,
you to take this with the best intention from a brown, skinny guy with really small ears. But the views of an Iranian exile and an atheist are not going to affect the English ethno-nationalist Christian movement. As
I
much as we like him, the
I beg to
Iranian
differ.
atheist who really likes mud GDP and mud gives and
Mm,
mud law. I mean, though we might like him, he's not going to change. Our views are going to remain. This has always been a Christian country. and the Christian nationalists are a large component of the nationalist movement.
But the people you're trying to bring on your side, those Tommy Robinson fans and those guys who you're trying to now pull towards your side, they need to also be aware of where this is going and where it could potentially lead.
You know how we fractured all that groups so badly. You have no idea. You can't see the reports.
No. I mean, I know they're fracturing, but what I mean is
they're divided into a spectrum, and we're just mopping them up. The Christian theology will appeal to working class atheists in Generation 2 who have lost their way in faith, which are Englishmen. It will be a path back to salvation for them. It will come slowly.
That's how you sell it to them, but that doesn't mean that's actually what is there. That may be your pitch, but that isn't the reality of it. That's the difference. The pitch and what is delivered are two very different things.
The fear you have of the Lord is a healthy fear.
Yeah. I mean, you, as I said, you can sell that pitch maybe to your average Tommy Robinson guy. But I'm not buying, not today. I can see that.
Banksy, I keep telling you, I'm not pitching Christian English traditionalism to the nice, happy, friendly Iranian atheist. Right?
I know you're not pitching it to me, but what I mean is that when you pitch it to those guys,
it's the same place to be.
Yeah, but the thing is when you
Banksy's value proposition. Yeah, but Banksy, the funny thing I like is Banksy's value proposition to the nationalists. Hey guys, I don't really care about your group requirements and needs. My individual rights and needs are this, man, and I'm going to make sure you guys don't take my needs.
Exactly.
We know the nature of the beast. Like,
as I said,
you're not a threat.
I mean, I'll be honest. I don't think you guys are a threat at the moment. I don't see anything of threatening nature. If you guys can actually even manage to get yourselves registered as a legal party, would be a step towards something.
Banksy, Mark. In that case, you'd love to hear this VCD. Did you hear Mark Collette on Patriotic Dog read out today's Electoral Commission email?
No.
You didn't?
Okay. Did you guys actually register them finally?
The conflict. No, it's a process. It goes back and forwards, and there are obstacles, but there's no way under law they can stop it. Right, Banksy? So this is something we're going to love because all the naysayers are going to be hoping you're not going to get registered. And we're just going to watch them.
My registration.
No, you won't get registered. They crawl on their knees on all fours.
Yeah, no, I mean, Britain got registered, for crying out loud. Britain first got registered. So if you guys can't even get registered, that's dismal.
Yeah, let's just hope and wish. But again, that's not very inspiring. Crawling around the knees, hoping. What you're gonna have to face is arguments, right? That's the thing that wins the game. Right? But we're just having grand old time. The whole movement there. They're not sure are we civ-nats or not. As we just mechanically just do the right thing, man. But yeah, it should be good.
It's interesting.
But hey, Sonia, my sister Sonia's in the chat. God bless you. It's fun, man, isn't it? It's no longer the old characters are not as interesting anymore. The new topics are much more fun. Man.
Well, the thing is, I've had these questions in my mind, and especially after I listened to some of your streams in regards to your morality testing, and to me, every one of those things, the people talking about wanting religion in school, all of that to me screams Islamic Republic of Iran. And I do not wish to have it in any guise, no matter what, however pleasant a gilded cage you wish to build. I don't want to live in it, and so I'm still not.
I can understand the screams of Iranian cell nights come to you at night.
Yeah, I have PTSD. I have PTSD from religious.
My 1979 PTSD editions. I'm thinking Iranian virus, Somalian, and I get it, bro. And you know what? Think of it this way: you have safe haven with the nationalists because one thing we like is law and order. So don't you worry about it. You'll be all right.
The Iranians like law and order too. I'm sure the mullahs loved law and order, just their laws and their order. And that's why I'm nervous. I'm always nervous.
Banksy, here's a secret tip. Secret right-wing Radio 14 tip. When you see the first million go, then get worried, yeah?
Yes.
Until then, yeah.
Exactly. Well, this is what I mean. I'm saying,
But you're number 1,000,001, mate. I've seen your position on the list. You're 1,000,001.
Exactly. That's the thing. I don't want to be sitting next to Ali Dawa worried about which train card is going to take us to Poland or not.
But you know how we reverse that, Banks? You know how we reverse that mimetically? We use the exact metaphors of the left reversing. First, they came for the English, and I wasn't English, and I didn't speak up. thanking
Yes.
for the Welsh and the Irish and the Scots, and then suddenly there are no more Brits left.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're
Look,
not gonna let that
I
happen.
get that. I get the whole thing about the ethnicity, and I'll be
Self-preservation.
honest. Next census, shit's gonna hit the fan. Shit's gonna get real next census, because
We can't wait.
the white
We can't.
English are gonna realize, oh shit, this is real. Although they have been grooming the ethnic
God bless
English
you,
for a
Cam,
while.
sister.
They've been grooming them into thinking that being a minority or being a large minority group in their country is a good thing, and that diversity is our strength, as the mantra goes. So I
Not worked
get
out.
that. I get it that they're trying desperately to groom the British population and prepare them for a minority
It's too late.
position. But
It's too late. The cat's out of the bag.
but
Cat's out of the
dude,
bag.
that whole
Too late.
you see, my other concern is this your concepts in course correction, or repatriation, or whatever, in order to get the numbers back up to 95. I don't. You see, you gotta be working simultaneously, as you are deporting or repatriating. The white native English has to start to propagate. 3 to 4 kids. How are you going
Yep.
to even begin to change? Even in Hungary, where they've tried all of these incentives, it's not working. It's not actually
But
working.
it's the best way to look at that metric, and you look at the highest performing metrics of that sub data, particularly in the Christian evangelical right, which is our highest data sets for these things. Again, I got all the data, baby. If you look at them, we can get to 4 and 5 times birth rate quickly enough in right local conditions, because US has federated law, right? So the states are very powerful in the United States for most matters, socially and culturally. States' rights are much more important than federal rights. Federal rights are only negatively enforced in the
What's
US
that got
law.
to do with
We can see we
Britain?
can get to 4 and 5. We can see the 45 that we can see that the local conditions are sufficient to get to the white birth rate rate. To get the local conditions, we need sufficient national plus local power. It has to be national power because of the British democratic system. So we have to go after the 650 seats natural power. We know the 650 seats, we know the distribution, we know what percentage of what ethnic levels. We'll get a brilliant recalibration, massive PR next year in phase 3. Phase 3 is going to be fucking beautiful for us. Phase 2 just us warming up and twitching. Phase 3 is when we're going to be cocking and striding through society. And we're going to say this is what's wrong, because by then demographics will be MSM saturated to coincide with Trump 2020. Trump 2020, at the end of that, world media and shrill, we're going to be screaming 14, but then I'll have thousands of 14 people wandering around in a highly distributed mesh of 14 bots, achieving what we need, which is hashtag demographics. White people are being replaced. English people, they look around, they see it. Minorities is so lost half century. Gays, Muslims, blacks, whatever. Minorities are lost century. So lordy me, if you're gonna hinge your wagon onto some dead heroin singer in London's lyrics, for example, good luck with that strategy against a lot of boys with a lot of intent to protect their ethnicity.
Well,
it's gonna be a fascinating affair, man.
Well, this is the thing. This is again, these are the questions. I mean, I the other night when I was challenging the guys on the liberal Discord, one of them literally said, "I would rather live in a country that is majority black but nice people than to have all majority white assholes." And I was
Let me ask
like,
you this question: how many majority black societies treat white liberal and gay men well? Let's name the societies in orders. How many black majority societies treat minorities, women, or gays, any form of minority well? And the answer is none. So if you think the black and brown people are going to look after you, just go down to Paris. I'll take you on Paris. I know Paris backwards. I'll take you on Paris for a weekend, mate.
You should go.
Let me see.
Go do some groiping in Paris.
Let's see how you feel your more liberal rights. Let's get along with a lot of black guys in a mattress under a fucking subway stop. Works out for you, sweetheart.
Well, the thing is, it wasn't so much as how the blacks will treat others better or worse. It's that it's the same as the mindset of Steve, where he said he doesn't mind if this country, if the British population drops below even 50% majority.
Steve is not stunning and brave yet, isn't that the problem, Scorpio Steve? He's yet to be stunning and brave. But one night on a mattress in the Montmartre in Paris with a bunch of African people.
He'll be very stunning and brave.
I'll be starting a grave in the morning, mate.
Interesting.
So this is the truth. This is the truth, though. The liberal proposition is that they will integrate and they will adopt more values quicker than the demographic replacement. The left want you to pretend. They'll pretend with the liberals that, hey, they'll just get along as long as they adopt more values. But the left don't care at all. They're just coming for whitey. The white guys are looking at you guys going, you've got a losing game here. If we stay on target, you can't stop us. So we're just going to stay on target, right? That's the fun.
That's what you hope. That's what you hope. We'll see how Colette's movement.
Hope is a left-wing value, man.
The thing is, Ralph, my other final little question is, how is it that you, as an older statesman, are willing to take your cues and your orders from a much younger man like Colette? I mean, he is without a doubt almost half your age. I mean, he's what is he, like 30 something? Wouldn't you feel that you should be the one that leads this?
No. Why would I ever lead an Englishman to lead England to safety? All I will do is serve, as I said in the first week. I'm a servant in service of the realm. Right? My ethno-state has 1.2 billion people, 400 nuclear warheads. And if you don't speak Hindi, you're considered a foreigner. The fact that this conversation in English excludes you from the highest, strongest ethno-state in the world with the most right-wing prime minister. Don't worry about the Indians. The Indians are fine. It's English people. Why would they? Look, check out Doctor. You watched Edward Dutton streams?
No, I didn't.
If you don't watch Edward Dutton, mate, he's doing all the fun stuff and genetics and stuff. His last week, Dr. Edward Dutton, the Jolly Heretic, one of ours, meeting him in a week or two. And check him out. He just did how are the Indians dominating all the positions in cabinet in Britain? How come lots of Indians are dominating political and commercial life? So you can now see the ethnography in the data. Yeah. So I don't think, of course, I would take orders from an Englishman when he's fighting to save England. I mean, otherwise it defeats all purpose.
Well, no, I wasn't thinking so much the Englishman. I was thinking so much. I was thinking more of the age difference than him, whether he's English or not.
Mark says it better. Let me just take Mark Colette's words. Mark Colette says it better. Don't think of him as a personal role. Just think of the tempo in which he served. And the tempo is English nationalism. You're just a person serving the tempo. Don't let your ego get in the way. Don't make you think you're so special that you think you're something.
So that's how you guys are different from the Tommy Robinson. Huh? It's not all about the one man.
It's anti. In technical terms, it's anti-single point of failure, and no spoffs and no key man failure. And from the ethos, it's anti-culture personality. Right? It's obviously a collective, right?
Yeah,
Tommy is arguing for more liberal.
He enjoys the attention. He clearly enjoys the attention. I've seen videos of him when he was younger, and he covets that attention. I think you'll be surprised that once the attention becomes really, really large and national, people change, dude. People change. The fame changes.
You mean are you trying the absolute power corrupts argumentation line? Are you trying
absolutely. That's for sure. But I don't think Mark's ever had that kind of power. He's always played second fiddle to someone else. He's never really been.
Not for a while. He learned his lessons, experience. No, he learned that because he couldn't take over the BNP, for example, and it's a mutually sad relationship that ended that way. But yes, tremendous respect from the BNP rank and file and the old guard. And of course, the BNP are not done. They're one of the richest parties in the United Kingdom in terms of cash. So they're not done. But the main thing is, what is the nationalist? And Mark did the right thing in the dissident right. He went after all the people, the voices, and formed a very rich community. Remember, 5 at the top, social media metric distributions of the right, 5 at the top are UK-based. And Mark Colette's leader, the dissident right, in the Anglosphere, effectively, along with 4 or 5 other key voices, but definitely the UK leader and one of the top European leaders. Now the question is, after Brexit, we have 5 years to do our thing, innit, fam?
So you got the 5 years, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, it's early days. Again, it's early days, so I'm not
worried. You're fine. You can get another drink, man.
I'm not exactly booking my flight to Australia yet, or New Zealand. Actually, New Zealand is pretty white and secluded.
Hey, man, China is where I would not go, man. I got these Chinese neighbors, and I'm looking at them with suspicion. I got these Chinese fashion students who live as one of my neighbors from one side. I'm looking at them with fucking irrational,
suspicion, man. They always have masks on anyway. And I'm like, dude, like, do you think that's culturally sensitive to walk around in the city with these corona masks? Have you been nervous, Banksy?
To
Have you
tell
been?
you the truth, I am somewhat concerned because I mean, since I had my bike accident, I haven't, I have to catch the train. I've been catching the train. I haven't caught the train in like 10 years. And now I've had to catch the tube for the last month and a bit. And I'll be honest, I am not happy. I'm not happy at all. It's first of all, the tubes and the trains are god awful. I mean, they are just fucking awful. It's just cramped.
You've got me in a moral quandary there, man. You've got me in a moral quandary again. On one hand, I kind of feel for you because I like you. The other thing, this fat fucker fell off his bike and now he's whinging about taking the train. I did.
Well, that's the funny
Making
thing.
more running.
The thing is, I was
more
gonna,
running, less videos.
I know I was gonna buy a bike. I was gonna buy a bike like 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, I was gonna buy a bike. I was like, "Fuck this train shit. It's god awful. I'm buying a bike." Then I realized, and I actually looked on the scale. I'm losing considerable amount of weight. All this walking is actually helping a lot when it comes to the weight loss. If I control my food a little bit better, I could shed quite a few pounds. I mean, I'm looking at. I want to be around 200 pounds, and I'm only 20 pounds away.
This is crazy. Do you think this is crazy idea, Banksy? I know it sounds nuts, right? It sounds like really like space tech. Have you ever considered just fucking walking more? Just like get up and walk somewhere for no reason, just walk.
That's exactly it. This is what I'm saying. With the tube, I have to walk. I have to walk up and down stairs all the time. Even the escalators, I just walk up and down them. And so it's actually been really good exercise. Initially, my feet were killing me. Now my feet are stronger. The cartilage and the sort of ligaments and everything has toughened up a little bit. The muscles around the in the foot and the legs have toughened up. And yeah, my legs feel strong, and I'm just I'm not doing any upper body lifting much. I have to do some weightlifting just to get the upper body going. But the legs, they're doing well.
Man. Hey, Banksy, man. Can I ask you a really personal question, bro?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think, like, if we all crowdfunded this, if we really crowdfunded it, would you, for as a charity celebration of your new health regime, will you do a full oil charity wrestling match with Zabita?
sumo wrestling, sumo oil wrestling with Zabita. I'm not even joking.
I mean, that's what I want to see.
I'm not even joking. I would do it. I would do it in these fat sumo suits in a bath in one of these like kiddie pools full of like KY jelly.
Oil.
Full of oil.
I don't think that
peanut butter.
Goes, man.
Sorry.
I thought she'd gone away, but she's still around. She's still around and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know what the latest thing is. I know she hangs. Huh?
Yeah, she had a stream going last week, last Friday I think it was, and I recorded some of it and I played it while they were streaming. I was live streaming whilst they were live streaming, and I was playing it as an intro. It's my last video that I second to last. And
is that the one with the glue where they put on the sunglasses in some fucking kitchen in some shit place somewhere?
Yes, that's Zabita. That's fucking Zabita's Saturday night.
Someone, I think Ricky Herschel captured the fact that she's an ethno-nationalist for her people, Algerians, isn't it? Because inshallah, as long as it's in Algeria. But over here, she's like, fuck the English and the ethno-state. You're like, all right, you sound a bit Israeli. But then she's 70% Jewish, right?
She is.
So it's like diversity.
6.9, yeah, she's 6.9 Ashkenazi. So she's all about that ethno-state. I'm all about that ethno-state. Ethno-state, no trouble.
Do you want me to leave you alone now, back?
No, dude. I'm gonna have to go to sleep. Yeah, because I actually have to get up at 5 a.m. So unfortunately, this is my bedtime.
You have to walk to the tube.
I have to catch the goddamn tube and walk and just get squashed in. And I'll be honest. When the thing is, there is always some fucker that's disease infested, standing like 3 inches from your face, and is coughing or sneezing. I'm like, for the love of God, go away.
Hey, remember the disease? The disease ones want human rights too. Remember, it's all about
Disease,
that. But my
yes.
thing for this is, mate, let me leave you with this one when you go onto the LibTod servers, the FTKs, whatever these ones. You know, from your personal experience and your felt lived experience, Banksy, you know, those knees and those joints and all that hurting and that change. At what point does that become a social construct?
It's just in my imagination.
Can you show me some studies that prove in a citation graph that that's a social construct? Thanks ever so much. Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
I'm
that would
going
be
to bail as well, bro.
no problem. MC, I'm gonna check out as well, mate. So have yourself a wonderful night. Thank you for coming, guys. It's been interesting. Thank you, Ralph, for answering the questions. There's been a
Good
few
night.
things. Yeah,
Yeah, mashallah.
mashallah. Exactly, mashallah. Take care, guys. I'm out as well, and I'm just gonna wrap up the show here. MC, thank you for coming, mate. Have a good night. Bye bye. Okay, boys and girls, it's back to us and just us. Well, tonight's show was meant to be about Cenk Uygur, but Ralph showed up, so I wanted to pose some of the questions and thoughts and things that I've been doing in order to really for you guys mostly. For those of you, I know I know a fair chunk of my audience frequents also Ralph's and the Ethonats sort of zone, if you like. So yeah, think about this. When you take that political compass test and it shows up that you're center left or center right or just center, that's not what Mark Collette is. Mark Collette isn't advocating for your center right life. He's advocating for a far harsher society than that. So you know, keep that in mind. Keep that in mind that when you check the box, you want religion in schools. That also means Islam. It doesn't just mean Christianity. There is no it doesn't specify which religion. So, as they say, be careful what you wish for. You might just get it. And on that note, I thank you all for coming. I love you all. I wish we can all live together in a somewhat less diverse world, but certainly more peaceful and a little bit more chilled. I still love Britain as it is, man. I want Britain to be for the British, and I don't want the Muslimic ray guns. You guys remember the Muslimic ray guns? You know, that poor bastard that was ridiculed for years, and he was actually telling the truth. That poor monosyllabic, bold bastard was telling the truth about the Muslimic ray guns, and nobody believed him. Anyway, I'm going to try and find the track to finish this stream off with. What shall we play, boys and girls? What shall we play? Let me see if I can find some dodgy track that we can go with. I'm saving some of the better ones for other nights. But for now, maybe I can find something. What can I find? Let us find a track that is funky and good. Oh, come on. Give it to me, Google. Let algorithm come forth and give me some music. Algorithm, where is it? Where is the algorithm? Hit me with your rhythm stick. Hit me. I've been listening to these kind of 1950 style of modern music. That's why I've been playing all these intros. They're awesome. Okay, maybe this one. No, I don't like that one. I want another one. I want this one. Yeah, this one will do. Let us play this one. Let the force flow through you. Where is it? I haven't done the Wheel of Cunt for a while. Should have done the Wheel of Cunt. Well, guys, take care of each other. Love each other. Check out your fellow ethno-nationalist leader a little bit more critically. he may not be telling you all the truth. His truth may be downstream from his morality. Remember that. And have yourself a wonderful, wonderful evening, Monday. And if you're going to work tomorrow, good luck with that. I'll see you in the jungle. On the tubes and the trains, perhaps. Have a good one, guys. Ciao. Oh, and tickle your ass with a feather. Ciao.
Everything as long as it's free. I want your love. Love, love, love. I want your love. I want the drama and the touch of your hand. I want your leather-studded kissing in the sand. I want your love. Love, love, love. I want your love. You know that I want you. You know that I need you. I want you bad, bad, real bad. I want your love, I want your revenge. You and me could write a bad romance. I want your love and all your lovers' revenge. You and me could write a bad romance. Oh, 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 caught in a bad romance. Oh, oh, oh. I want your horror, I want your design. Cause you're a criminal as long as you're mine. I want your love. Love, 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 I want your love. I want your psycho, your vertigo stick. Want you in my rear window. Baby, you're sick, I want your love. Love, 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 I want your you and me could write a better romance. I want your love and all your lovers' revenge. You and me could write a better I want your love, I want your revenge, I want your love. I don't wanna be friends, je veux ton amour et je veux te revoir, je veux ton amour. I don't want to be friends,